right, welcome everyone. We're called to order at 5 on the dot here. We'll go ahead and start with a moment of silence. Item B. Commissioner Tobias.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right, we've got some minutes to approve. April 13th, may I have a motion to approve those minutes? All right, a motion from Commissioner Isnardi. I'll second it. All in favor of approving the minutes from April 13th of this year, please say aye. Aye. All right, passes unanimously. Taking a look here, there are a couple of items that I'd like to continue, and I apologize for the first one. It ended up getting tied up and was not able to work this up for today's meeting on account of the hurricane and some other things that came up last week. I'd like to continue out I as in India 2 and F as in Foxtrot 16. So I don't know if anyone has an objection. If so, we can just address them piecemeal and do them one item at a time. But if not, I'd ask for a motion to continue out I2 and F16. All right, a motion from Commissioner Tobias to continue I as in India 2 and F16. All in favor of continuing them, say aye. Yes, sir.
Why would you want to hold up I2?
I was hoping to touch base with Robin Peterson, who is the individual that reached out to my office over the issue. I don't know if it's been my schedule or his schedule. I know I've called him a couple times. He's called me a couple times. But with the hurricane that came around last week, between being at the EOC multiple times and having some other obligations that fell in my lap, it just didn't happen. So I'd like to give him one more opportunity. If he doesn't show up at the next time, I'm happy to put this on consent, and it'll be what it'll be.
All right. I haven't seen or heard anything that would cause me to vote against it, but as a courtesy to you, I'll be happy to wait.
Yeah, and if I don't hear from him or for some reason we're not able to touch base, I'm not going to object to it this coming time.
Yeah, the lease expires August 18th.
Oh, it expires August 18th?
So then we need to do it.
That is tough. Okay,
So-
all right. Commissioner Tobias, would you mind withdrawing your motion and then making it as to F16?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Amend my motion to just hold off on F16. And Mr. Chair, we can hold off till the zoning meeting on Thursday if you want and take it up at that point. That would give you 2 additional days.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Actually, if you don't mind, and that'll give him at least some opportunity, even if it's not a great opportunity to reach out and for me to reach out to him again.
I'm fine.
Okay, so if I may interpret your motion as such, a motion to continue I2 to this Thursday, and then F16 to, what date would you all like? I don't know that that's enough time. How about the next meeting in August?
You have Melbourne Tillman on the 11th, you have a workshop on the 20th, and you have a regular on the 25th.
20th or 25th? What do y'all want to do with F16? 25th? Okay, 25th, I hear from Ms. Bentley. Okay, so the motion from Commissioner Tobias to continue I as in India 2 to this Thursday, and F as in Foxtrot 16 to the 25th. All right, I'll go ahead and second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you all. I'm sorry for the confusion. Okay, we've gotten through minutes. We do have a presentation from Roger Gangitano. We do have some cards on it as well. I'm going to go ahead. I'll set the clock to 10 minutes, and I'll basically follow precedent. If he's a few seconds over, I'll let him wrap up his thoughts, and I'll do the same with folks that we addressed today as well. All right, sir. You've got the floor.
I want to thank the entire Board of County Commissioners for allowing me the time to address my concerns here. The Southern Poverty Law Center was founded in 1971 as a small civil rights law firm. It grew to be known internationally as a hate monitoring organization, identifying discriminatory acts and activities associated with hate. In the earliest days of the SPLC, the Alabama-based civil rights law firm did target truly racist and hateful groups, most famously the United Klans of America, the KKK, which the SPLC devastated in a successful lawsuit in 1984. But over time, to keep the money flowing in, the SPLC began expanding its list of hate groups to include not just the shrinking numbers of the vile KKK and neo-Nazi groups, but groups that were merely controversial and even harmless. pro-life, and pro-family religious groups were targeted by the beginning of the 1990s. Following the 9/11 attacks in our country, national security organizations concerned with Islamic terrorism were targeted. Immigration policy groups and religious freedom organizations all fell into the SPLC's sights. At the same time, those issues became increasingly a focus for conservatives. The SPLC is now a complex marketing scheme that has made them likely the wealthiest civil rights organization in the country, posting nearly $500 million in assets, including more than $120 million in offshore accounts. In March 2019, the SPLC co-founder, Morris Dees, and its president resigned amidst numerous complaints of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and racism within the organization. The SPLC was also forced to pay in 2019 $3.4 million settlement and issue a formal apology for falsely labeling a British Muslim, Majid Nawaz, an anti-Muslim extremist. It was forced to apologize for posting an extremist file on Dr. Ben Carson. Quotes he made opposing same-sex marriage were cited as the reason for including him with Ku Klux Klan members, skinheads, and other white supremacists. It calls Dr. Charles Murray, the F.A. Hayek Emeritus Chair in Cultural Studies at the American Enterprise Institute, a white nationalist. It has branded Ayan Hirsi Ali, a former Muslim who fled terrible oppression in Somalia and even now faces jihadist threats on her life, as an anti-Muslim extremist. It should be obvious to anyone that the SPLC is not the credible organization it once was. But it's not just the targeting and branding of conservative-minded groups and individuals of its political opponents that's problematic. Their efforts actually fuel the hatred they profess to stand against, and the results are dangerous. The Family Research Council is a nonprofit research and educational organization dedicated to advancing a family-centered philosophy of public life. In addition to providing policy research and analysis for the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of the federal government, the Family Research Council seeks to inform the news media, the academic community, business leaders, and the general public about family issues that affect the nation from a biblical worldview. They are an organization focused on religious values and falsely labeled a hate group by the SPLC due to their religious views and beliefs. On August 15, 2012, a gunman opened fire on a security guard at the Washington, D.C. headquarters of this conservative Christian organization. The assailant was overpowered at the scene, held for authorities, and later acknowledged in FBI testimony that he had selected that office precisely because the SPLC had labeled the Family Research Council as a hate group. In October 2019, President Trump spoke at the Family Research Council's Value Voter Summit. In May of this year, the Family Research Council thanked President Trump for identifying houses of worship as, quote, essential places that provide essential services, unquote. Would our president speak at an event hosted by a true hate group? On Friday, July 9, 2020, at the Brevard County Commissioners meeting, Commissioner Tobias said that there was only one group in Florida listed on the SPLC hate group list, but didn't mention our name. There is only one group listed in Brevard on the SPLC hate group list who he said should not get any CARES funding. That's us, ACT Space Coast. On July 17th, 2020, a Florida Today forum was conducted with candidates for Brevard County Commission District 3 attending. Commissioner John Tobias, the incumbent candidate, and Mayor Kathy Meehan, both Republicans, and the Democrat candidate Sanjay Patel. In Commissioner Tobias' opening remarks, he said that certain charities and groups should not receive federal CARES funding, such as those listed as hate groups by the SPLC. He mentioned a number of groups as examples that should not receive such funding, specifically the North American Man-Boy Love Association, a national association advocating acceptance of physical relationships between men and young boys. The Westboro Baptist Church, best known for its strong stance against homosexuality, same-sex marriage, and the gay rights movement. Westboro Baptist Church also condoned tragedies like the mass shooting at the elementary school in Newton, Connecticut, 2012, and the 9/11 attacks on America, 2001. Another group he named was the Nation of Islam, whose leader, Louis Farrakhan, has openly attacked Jews and defended Hitler. Other groups, he said, were more nefarious and not as obvious, such as the Shark Hunters, a neo-Nazi group who believe Hitler did not die in Germany but instead escaped to Argentina. They provide information and tours of World War II relics. A search of this group indicates it's little more than a single individual who likes sunken U-boats. He went on to say there was actually an SPLC hate group registered right here in Vieira. When asked if he could provide the name of that group, he said, ACT. It should be noted, ACT Space Coast is not a charity. We are not a 501 corporation, nor are we a business. We are not eligible for, nor do we seek any government funding of any kind. We are simply a self-funded group of patriotic citizens that gather together to discuss topics of mutual interest. We promote America's national security by defending our democratic values against the assault of radical Islam and other threats to our way of life, both foreign and domestic. We defend the Constitution and encourage the support and security of Israel. We are not anti-Muslim, and this is clarified at every meeting, visually and verbally, in our PowerPoint meeting introduction, which I believe I've handed a photocopy of, a printout of our screen. It says, quote, "We do not disparage any Muslim's free exercise of his or her faith or imply a fear of or animosity towards Muslims or Islam in general. Please refrain from making comments to the contrary at our meetings. However, we do not accept the concept of Islamic superiority or the inclusion of Sharia into our laws or society," unquote. I have, for more than a decade, been the proud president of the ACT Space Coast Group, and we have not changed our views on the subject of Islam since our inception, about 12 years ago. Regarding the subject of Islam, we oppose only Islamists who seek to replace our constitutional laws. We oppose Islamic terrorists, not Muslims. We have hosted Muslim speakers, and they were received and treated with respect and without animosity. We have always been and we remain a small group of local concerned citizens who discuss national security-related topics, education, bills and legislation in support of American and Judeo-Christian values, and other issues. We're permitted to use the Act for America name and logo only with permission and only if the views we present are consistent with the national organization views. Since our inception more than 12 years ago, ACT Space Coast, nor I, have ever violated that trust. I'm not going to bother to read a short list of names of our invited speakers. I'll just bypass that. But we've had Muslim speakers, representatives of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Dr. Zudi Jasser, national devout Muslim, and the list goes on and on. Okay. I've also recommended a Muslim, Assad Saeed Bashir, to the Brevard County School Board back in 2014, who participated in the committee that worked with our school board to correct Islamic bias in the textbooks being used in our school district. This resulted in the adoption of a corrective supplement for teachers to use after confirming the bias content in that textbook. 2 ACT Space Coast members were also part of that committee. In conclusion, the SPLC organization is no longer a credible source to make evaluations on the subject of hate, nor has it ever cited any effort on our part or mine to foster hate. Neither I nor ACT Space Coast is deserving of being categorized with groups supportive of pedophilia, Nazis, or hateful agendas of any kind. We have never been contacted by the SPLC or given an opportunity to refute the listing. Commissioner Tobiah has never, according to our records, ever attended one of our meetings. Hence, it's understandable that he doesn't know anything about our group or our efforts. It's not my intention here today to disparage Commissioner Tobiah for the above. Rather, I'm here only to set the record straight, to maintain our good name and our reputation. I thank this board for allowing me the time to address this subject, and I respectfully welcome your questions and comments.
Well timed. Commissioner Tobiah.
Thank you. And I appreciate your time and coming here, and I have nothing against your organization. I stated that you were on the list and the list that you mentioned. My point was not to single your organization out. My point was that your organization, and you mentioned a reason why, doesn't deserve any of the CARES money. But if you would have listened to the rest as a conservative, I don't think any organization, whether it be ACT whether it be a hate group, whether it be a small business, deserves the money that we are borrowing from China right now. So I'm sorry that you were singled out. It was my bad. My intent was to try to get the board to see that that $10 million would be better sent to Washington, D.C. in a conservative fashion instead of willy-nilly handing it out to businesses and individuals. So you came in the middle. I support your free speech, whatever that would be, and I certainly meant no disparaging remarks according to it. I was just trying to give an example, and that was the first one that came up. So,
Well,
please accept my apology.
I can just respond to that very quickly, Commissioner.
It's
I'm
up to
not-
Commissioner Tabaya.
Absolutely, with the chair's discretion.
Please, briefly.
The issue is that you're citing and singling our group out. We're not qualified for any of that money. We're not a charity, we're not a business, we're not a 501, we're simply a group of people who get together for a meeting, like a bowling team. Okay, bowling team is more organized and structured than what we are. They belong to a league. So I don't think it was right to single us out like that and classify us with such hateful people. So,
Mr. Chair, I agree with you. I don't think anyone deserves that money. Your organization,
I
a
don't
bowling
disagree with that
organization,
either.
as a conservative, that is $10 million that is being, and I'm sorry, I lost this one, but you've brought it up and you invited a speaker here, but we are spending $10 million borrowed on a $26 trillion debt that we are willy-nilly handing out to businesses. So I don't believe that your tax status or charity organization, I don't think there are any qualifications that should entitle you to money that will be on the backs of our grandchildren, so and great-grandchildren. So I apologize. My intent was to get a majority of the board to be with my perception that it was best to return that money to the Treasury instead of hand that out. They did not agree. And again, I apologize for that. That you were in the middle of that and characterized with some of those other organizations. I just looked at hate organization according to a list that I was somewhat familiar with, and certainly did not argue the legitimacy of that list. However, thank you for coming here and educating us to what you do.
I would
I
hope that
greatly
you say
appreciate
some
it.
kind words about our group, okay, to offset.
Roger. I'm sorry. Sir, if you don't mind, I can't have it go back and forth.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for your apology.
What I will say as well, and I'm going to keep it brief because we do have several comment cards on this as well. When I spoke with Mr. Gangitano, he reached out and asked if he could address the commission, and given the circumstances, I told him he could have a few minutes to do that. I didn't know what was required to get added to the SPLC's list of hate groups, so a little over a week ago, it looks like a week and a day ago, I emailed their deputy legal director and another one of their attorneys. One of them is also a member of the Florida Bar. I figured maybe they'll show me a little professional courtesy and reply. A day or two after I emailed them, so this would have been Wednesday of last week, they replied and basically said, thanks for contacting the office. I'm going to forward it to so-and-so who leads the organization's work to counter hate and extremism. And basically what I asked them was, with specificity, if they could give me the particular criteria that they use to determine an organization in their list of a hate group. I also asked if they have any opportunity to rebut any allegations before they're included on that list. So, I gave them the background. It was a little longer than that, but, suffice it for purposes of keeping things concise, to say they knew what I was asking. They knew what I was asking for. And with over a week now having passed, I still haven't gotten anything except something saying, thank you, we're going to get back to you. So I'm not saying they don't have valid reasons for including particular groups on their list. I just truly don't know. When Mr. Gangitano reached out to me, he had for some time asked me to attend one of his group's meetings, and I figured, what the heck, I'll give it one shot. He'd asked me enough times, I figured at some point, I was in the Viera Government Center anyway, and I sat in for the better part of at least one meeting. I don't think I ever came back for a second meeting, but it wasn't because I heard anything that was hateful. I have so many hours in the day and there are only so many things that I have an interest in. But I didn't hear anything to me in the one, granted, very limited meeting that I attended that rose to the level of hatred or anything of the sort. Now, I'm not saying that every meeting has been run that way. He could have had, a horrible person in the meeting before or after, and I wouldn't know about it. But, based on that and based on his reaching out to me, I thought, I better give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I would hate to run an organization here and then be labeled as a hate group if, in fact, that's not the case. So, again, I'm not vouching for his organization. I just don't know it well enough to do that. But I just felt a little bit of sympathy given the fact that he reached out and my admittedly limited knowledge of what they do. We've got some public comment cards, so let's go ahead. These will be 3 minutes apiece. I'll just give you the pecking order here in terms of how they were submitted. That's how we'll do it. We've got, and I apologize if I mispronounce any names, Joe Oblau from Melbourne. Then we have Lee Boylan from Melbourne, Tom Robbins from Cocoa, and then last, Alice Kreitz from Melbourne on this item. So everyone will get 3 minutes. As I said, if you don't finish in 3, I'll let you, wrap your thoughts up very briefly after.
Okay, my name is Joe O'Black. I've been a member of ACT for 11 years. I just have a couple of comments to make. ACT for America has never and will never tolerate any bias, discrimination, or violence against anyone based on their religion, gender, race, or political persuasion. Freedom to practice one's religion in peace is afforded to each and every one of us by the United States Constitution, and we will defend it rigorously. Anyone who traffics in prejudice or advocates violence in any way towards anyone does not speak on behalf of ACT for America. Should our organization find out that such beliefs have been propagated by one of our members, anyone claiming to be associated with ACT for America will be terminated. Any relationship with such a person, group, or entity disavow them. We would never be members of a violent, discriminating group. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up we have Lee Boylan from Melbourne. And just for the public's benefit, I did provide a copy of the emails that went back and forth with SPLC to the clerk, so they'll be included with today's minutes, along with the handout that Mr. Gangitano referenced. Those will also be included in the minutes today. All right, sir, you've got the floor.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yes, sir.
My name is Lee Boyland. I've also been a member of ACT for at least 11 years. I'm familiar with Brigitte Gabrielle. I've had lunch with her. I've had dinner with her. I can testify that she is not a Islamophobe. I will verify what's been said by Mr. Gangitano and also Mr. O'Black. The Southern Poverty Law Center, while it started out with a noble cause, degenerated rapidly into an intimidation organization for the far left. If you say anything they don't like, the Southern Poverty Law Center will put you on their hate list, and then situations like just occurred. Somebody will see their list, thinks it's truthful, and make comments. There's been a number of lawsuits against them for basically liable. They picked on Brigitte Gabrielle ACT. She's the founder of ACT and still runs it. Because she made a statement that practicing Muslims who believe in the teaching of the Quran cannot be loyal citizens. Now, what she clarified in this statement was fundamental Muslims who take every word of the Quran literally. So her statement is correct in that. That's not all Muslims. That's just what we call the radicals or the Islamists. The president of Turkey, Tayyip Erdogan, made this statement a number of years ago, about 5 or 6, when he was the prime minister. Islam is Islam. There is no modifiers. Democracy is the train we ride to achieve our ultimate objective, which makes Islam the dominant religion throughout the world. So she has really good basis for making the statements she made. I could also quote several verses from the Quran, which I won't. I don't think I have time. But I'll take any questions if anybody has them.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
also point out I was a member of the Textbook Review Committee on Islam. It was a very good committee, and I think we did some good things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up we have Tom Robbins from Cocoa.
Good afternoon, Tom
Welcome, sir.
Robbins. I've been associated with Act for America for about 12 or 14 years. The organization ACT for America, ACT stands for American Congress for Truth. It's a very constitutional, supportive organization. It's founded by Brigitte Gabriel. You've probably seen her on national news a lot, and she's made local appearances. She is a legal immigrant from Lebanon, and she knows all about Islam. Unfortunately, she had to survive growing up the violent aspect of Islam. And she immigrated to America, and when 911 hit us, when the planes hit the building, she said, "It has come to America," because she grew up under a lot of persecution and almost death from violent Islamic idealism in Lebanon, southern Lebanon. Brigitte Gabriel is more of a patriotic American, I think, than most Americans, natural-born Americans are. But she started this organization as an educational organization, not a radical or hate group type organization, but just to educate Americans that love our country and our Constitution on the dangers of radical Islam, the violent type of Islam. And radical Islam does have an agenda. It's stated in the Quran, the Surah, the Hadith, and all of their holy books that they want to take over the world with their religion. And all our organization does is just try to educate Americans, patriotic Americans, about the danger of some other ideology coming in and subverting the United States Constitution and our ways of life. So I've never heard anything hateful in this organization. There's 1 million or 2 million members of Act for America in the United States, and there's 500 local groups, or chapters, as the local Space Coast chapter is. And I've never heard Roger or anybody in the group say anything hateful about Islam. But the group educates people on what's going on with Sharia law trying to creep in. We passed in several states the American Laws for American Courts resolution that bans a foreign law from taking root in the United States that would be like a parallel law.
Sir, if you could just wrap up, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, Ms. Kreitz from Melbourne.
I've been a member for 11 years, and I have learned so much about the Muslim religion, not only because of ACT, but because my own study. And I understand where Mr. Tobias could make a mistake of calling it a 501c3 or whatever you call it, and going by the Southern Poverty Law, because that, if you Google it, does kind of lead you to call it a hate group. But our chapter is not a hate group. It's an educational, anti-radical Islamic group. I mean, that's what we talk about mostly, is the people that are in this religions, so-called, and how they are behaving in other parts of the world and trying to change people's way of living, really, to the Muslim faith. If you value American way of life, our Constitution, and our Christianity, our family values that we built this country on, then you ought to all join us. And I wish some of you on the board would take the time to come out, as Brian did one time, and see what we talk about. And it is educational. We've had a lot of Muslims speak, and I have gotten to know a few Muslims that live in the area, and they've taught me things about their religion, and we have cooked together and that sort of thing. But many of our members are retired military who have firsthand knowledge of what radical Islam has done to other countries, and they don't want it to happen here in America. And there are many, many retired military in our group. It's not at all anti-Muslim. There are many peaceful Muslims, we know that, and those peaceful Muslims don't often talk about the fact that they are really upset about the leadership in their form of religion. Unfortunately, the Southern Poverty Law Center, as well as the Center for American Progress, have names that sound kind of good, but they're really very progressively left groups, and they try to paint us as an anti-Muslim group of haters, and that is just so far from the truth. We're a great group of people, and if you want to give me your name and email address, I will send you an invitation to our next meeting, and you will learn the truth about the radical Muslims that live among us. Fortunately, here in Brevard, we think we're kind of shielded from a lot of the rioting and the wackos that are in the big cities, but unfortunately, our country is at risk, and radicalism is part of the equations. So learn about it and come and join us at our next meeting. Again, I'd love to send you an email, so give me your email address and I'll get one for you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, that's all we have on that item. I appreciate you all for taking the time to come out and speak on that. We'll move on to consent. We've already addressed item F16. So I'd like to pull 14, and I understand Commissioner Tobias wants to pull 17. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Also, I'd like to vote no on F5, 6, 7, and 8 without comment.
Okay, so here's what we'll do. I'll go ahead in that case. Let me ask for a motion to pass F1 through and inclusive of F4, as well as F9 through and inclusive of F13, and then also F15. So it's F1 through and inclusive of 4, 9 through and inclusive of 13, and then 15 as well. So could I have a motion to pass all those? Inclusive of it, yeah, F4. So it would be F1, F2, F3, F4, F9, F10, F11, F12, F13, and F15. All right, a motion to pass those items I just identified by Commissioner Pritchett. I'll go ahead and second it. All in favor of passing the items identified, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, those items pass unanimously. Now let's have a separate motion, not from Commissioner Tobias, for items F5, F6, F7, and F8. All right, I'll go ahead and second Commissioner Pritchett's motion to pass F5 through and inclusive of F8. All in favor of passing those, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes 4-1 with Commissioner Tobias in the negative. All right, let's see to make sure that we have everything here. F14, I'll go ahead and address that briefly. I'm not going to take long on this. And I think I may have made this comment last year, and I know we're in the middle of a lease, or I understand that we're in the middle of a lease for the copiers. But looking at that, we have over $500,000 that's going on an annual basis for copiers. And from my experience, and I haven't priced it out in some years, but when I looked at it last go around, pretty much any organization that has the money to be able to lay out the upfront capital to buy them generally does better off in the long haul just buying the machines. So whether they want to get Xerox or Konica Minolta or Lanier or whatever brand they want, I certainly would encourage staff to go ahead before the lease runs out to price that out with enough time that we can make a change down the road. But obviously we are where we are right now, so I'd ask for a motion to approve F14, obviously with the note that I would ask staff to look at with ample time prior to the expiration of the current lease, purchasing those machines or similar machines down the road. May I have a motion for that? All right, a motion from Commissioner Pritchett to pass F14. I'll go ahead and second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, I think that leaves us just with F17 on consent. Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. F17 is dealing with a taxing district exclusively in County Commission District 3. And I should have added it to the list of tabling items for a couple weeks. But for a few reasons, I haven't spoken with anyone. No one's reached out to the office, and this does have some implications. So I would ask for a motion for this to be tabled till at least the next meeting, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do you have a preference in terms of when we can deal with it? I think Thursday may be a little soon.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think we have a meeting when September 1st, is that it, Mr.? I'm sorry? September 3rd is fine.
All right, September 3rd. Okay, so that'll be your motion to continue that out. I'll go ahead and second it. All in favor of continuing out F17 to September?
You have a speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, sir. Cliff Reppinger? Come on down. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. From Melbourne, sir. All right. I'll go ahead and give you a little bit of time to introduce yourself and then start you.
Thank you, Chairman Lover, honorable commission members. My name is Cliff Reppinger. My business address is 730 East Strawbridge Avenue, Melbourne, Florida. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Whitebird, and we serve as general counsel to Barefoot Bay Recreation District. The item that's before you today on consent, we have a timing issue where it cannot be tabled. We have a deadline that we have to meet. The supervisor of elections deadline is August 17th to get the ballot language to the supervisor of elections. So we're asking that you not table this item tonight and that you actually approve it. All that we are asking the commission to do tonight is to approve a resolution calling for a referendum election that's going to be submitted to the registered electors of Barefoot Bay to allow the voters of Barefoot Bay to vote on whether they will approve a spending initiative in the charter, modifying the charter spending cap limitation from $25,000 to $50,000. All that this resolution is doing is placing that item on the ballot so that the voters can actually vote on that initiative. So that's what we're asking for tonight.
And I've got a couple of questions for you. First, what are their other alternatives for getting it on the ballot if this doesn't go through?
Well, without getting into a huge debate about it,
Sure.
I think that the district might be able to call for the special referendum election itself. However, because this involves a charter change, and the charter initially adopted is a county ordinance, Ordinance 8405 is the Barefoot Bay Charter as it's been amended. We come here with respect to the commission, asking the commission to call for the referendum election because the commission ultimately will pass the ordinance that will make the change if it's approved at the referendum election.
But in short, to recap, if they were to gather signatures, they could achieve the same process. It would just be more difficult for them.
Well, I don't think we have to even obtain signatures. I think we could actually pass our own resolution calling for a referendum election if we wanted to.
And to your understanding, is the entire district in District 3?
Yes.
Okay, and let me ask, how did this actually, if you don't know, and I can bounce it by staff if that's the case, how did this actually get added? Because under department and office, it has your name, and obviously I respect and appreciate the fact that you represent the district. But was this something that was added at the behest of one of the commissioners, or how did this actually get on?
The Board of Trustees of the Recreation District approved us asking for this to be placed on an agenda item, and so I contacted staff and asked them to please put it on the agenda.
Okay, let me in that case bounce the question by staff, because my understanding, and this isn't your doing at all, I'm not remotely upset at you for something that frankly I think you did to benefit your client in this case, but I'm just trying to understand, because we modified some time back, it may have been 6 months or a year ago, how citizen agenda requests are to be added to the commission meetings. And I'm not necessarily upset with this particular one, but I just want to make sure that whatever policies we have, we're actually following them. So was this something that was done as a citizen's agenda request, or was this added for some other reason?
Very honestly, Commissioners, typically, as we did at the a prior meeting when the school board asked for the referendum to be placed on the ballot, it was we saw that it was a ministerial task. When this was submitted to us, we thought it was a similar statutory requirement. In fact, as been discussed tonight, after it was placed on the agenda, we came to realize that it actually is a different ordinance. It was a county ordinance, and so therefore it is not just a ministerial task. The board would have the discretion to do it, so that's why it was placed on the agenda.
Okay, I appreciate that, sir. So, Commissioner Tabaya, in short, I'll tell you, this is entirely in your district. If you want to continue it, I'll support you in that. If you want to vote for it, I'll support you in that. If you want to vote against it, I'll support you in it. It's your constituents to make happy or make angry, so, I'm going to let you lead the show on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I understand there are some timing issues, but those timing issues have been there for quite some time. And at any point, we all knew when the election was coming up, and at any time, you could have reached out to my office. Anyone on the board could have reached out to my office, and I'd have been more than willing to sit down and listen to what your concerns might be. I had a number of questions of how we define real property. I know there potentially will be another item up for referendum on Barefoot Bay's ballot. I'm concerned how those would interact with one another. So these are, many questions that, as an attorney and as the representative of Barefoot Bay, your skills would have been certainly helpful with a phone call. I have an office and would have more than willing to discuss any and all of those issues. But at this point, I am not comfortable voting in the affirmative, and I would ask for my fellow commissioners, as this is 100% in County Commission District 3, that we hold off on this, and I'd be more than willing to bring it up in whatever next month, and it can be on the ballot in whatever 2 years.
So when would you like to continue it out to, sir?
To September 3rd, Mr. Chair.
I'll go ahead and second that. All right, seeing no lights, I'll go ahead and call the question. All in favor of continuing it out to September the 3rd, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, it's continued unanimously. Thank you, sir. Okay, that takes care of consent agenda. I believe I've covered everything here. Did we deal with F-18? I'm not sure that we did. In an abundance of caution, let's go ahead. May I have a motion to approve F-18? All right, I'll go ahead and second that motion. All in favor of approving F-18, say aye. Aye. All right, any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, now that truly does take care of consent. Okay, public comment, we've got a bunch of cards here. So I'm just going to try to go through them as efficiently as we can. I'll just give you all the heads up in terms of the order so that folks can pace themselves accordingly and know that they're on deck. We'll have Charles Tovey up first from Melbourne, then Ralph Livingston from Cocoa. Then we'll have Kevin, looks like Polk from Panic? I'm sorry, Kevin Panic from Titusville, Sandra Sullivan from South Patrick Shores, Peter Carnesale from Vieira, Anthony Blunt from Cocoa, and then Marcel Adkins from Valcaria, in that order. All right, Mr. Tovey, you're up first, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Charles Tovey, 2555 Roberts Road, Melbourne. Put on my card about pirates, and the other thing was, I forgot, was dune erosion.
Lagoon.
Because of the hurricane and because of the derelict vessels and the problem it creates in the lagoon, but I've had to watch my boat and protect all my stuff. And doing that, I've noticed a group of individuals who stay back on most of the hurricanes, and while everybody else is gone, what they do is they stock the vessels that are most valuable or most vulnerable, and one person stands on shore with, watch out on shore with the cell phone, and there's at least one boat or several boats in the lagoon, and what they do is they just rob and pillage and steal and leave the boat for drowning or whatever, and then you have the people come in with the derelict vessel crew and take them out. And I was wondering if we could get on the hurricanes, if you could have extra lookout and all the whole lagoon about the people that are attacking these vessels. Other thing I want to say, because I do a lot more than just what I told you about making the lagoon flow better in all different manners, and I do dune line erosion as well. And some of the plants I planted, they were there and they survived and they were stabilized and doing well, and then whichever group comes along and they have the dune line erosion replacement package, and they go out and pull my plants up and plant their plants. A year later, the erosion's the same way it was before, and their plants are dead or gone. Why they took my plants out, and they are beneficial, and I'd like to volunteer on other things with the lagoon or the dune line erosion, environment, et cetera. What was the other thing? Oh, yeah. The commissioner in South Florida got arrested for imposing as a deputy sheriff at a homeowners meeting, got arrested, and there was a mayor who stole a deceased handicap placard and used it on her car so she could park in a parking space closer to it. The point of the matter is that there's bad people in all things, and I appreciate your best interest for our county government and our world as a whole. Thank you, and hope you're safe and sound.
Likewise, thank you, sir. All right, Ralph Livingston from Cocoa. Welcome, sir.
Hello, thank you, everyone. Hope I can finish up in 3 minutes. Hello, my name is Ralph Livingston. I'm here to address the administrative screening policy concerning coaching and volunteering. I'm not asking for a change just for myself. I'm asking for those who do not know how to ask and those who are afraid to ask. We're not asking for a handout, just a hand up, so that we in turn can help others. Not knowing me makes it easy to deny me. During the course of my life, I have made many good choices. Unfortunately, I haven't always made the best decisions, which has resulted in an extensive criminal record. However, those crimes do not define me. My failures and mistakes have taught me valuable lessons. I was born in Rockledge, Florida, and lived on Long Island, New York until the age of 14. I attended Edgewood and Kennedy Middle Schools. I'm a graduate of Cocoa High School, class of '83, where I played football and was on the track team. I attended Brevard Community College from January '84 to May of '86, where, while in college, I was voted president of the Minority Student Union and vice president of the Student Campus Council. My first experience with coaching and volunteering was in September of '94 at Jefferson Elementary School in Plainfield, New Jersey. I began as a cafeteria monitor and assistant basketball coach. Shortly, I became a mentor, head basketball coach, and president of the PTA. From 2006 to 2008, I volunteered at Woody Simpson Park Preschool on Merritt Island. I helped with serving the kids' lunches, cleaning up, and reading books to the children. In 2013, I was head basketball coach at Emma Jewell Charter Academy. From 2014 to 2016, I was a head basketball coach at Cocoa YMCA. In 2017, I was head coach for Pop Warner 8-on-8 football program. In October 2019, I was approved to volunteer for Brevard Public Schools. During 2019-2020, I volunteered at Rockledge Christian School, serving as a cafeteria monitor, reading books to students, physical education assistant, and I organized and scheduled a free throw contest for all grade levels. Currently, I'm helping raise 6 grandchildren, 5 boys and 1 girl, ages 6 to 11. Our 5 boys are members of the Merritt Island Pop Warner football teams. My hobbies are playing chess, Scrabble, and writing inspirational songs and poems. I have never had any criminal charges for violence, drugs, or sexual misconduct. I have completed and fulfilled all monetary and court order obligations placed upon me by the courts for my past criminal history. I am now once again a registered voter. To help me pursue my journey as a coach and volunteer, I have been helped by people such as Principal Deidre Walker, Judge Charles Roberts, former principal and 30-year city councilman Richard Blake, retired police officer Lieutenant Nathaniel Hook Sr., former mayor Michael Blake, school board member Cheryl McDougal, police commander Andrew Walters, Principal Thomas Cole, Principal Rick Spikener, and many others. In conclusion, I believe volunteering makes a difference in all lives who participate. I enjoy working with others, helping to strengthen and encourage our youth in a positive manner, and giving back to our community. I humbly and respectfully ask that a change be made to the administrative orders screening policy to allow people to coach and volunteer whom have changed their lives after a period of time. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, sir. And I'll just put out there for anyone who wants to bite, I'm still happy to look at changing that if anyone changes their mind. I'm still in the same position that I was before, the individuals that he mentioned. Certainly, I think it takes a lot to get them behind you, so if anyone changes their mind, I'll be there to support it. All right, Kevin Panic from Titusville.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kevin Panic, Titusville, Florida. I'm here on the 4-year anniversary going into year 5 on the issue of county's routine mowing over roadside litter. It's not really a happy anniversary, but it is an anniversary, so the same. We left off last year with the action to study the problem. That was a resounding no, but we did continue mowing over litter. Last year, there was a quote that said, "You're the only one with the problem, Mr. Panic." So the same specific technical content, 66 phone calls. All I'm asking is that staff make 66 phone calls to find best practice. Let's understand the problem by seeing if anywhere in the state of Florida someone is not mowing over litter. And then let's compile that data and put it on the internet, on our county website, so all the citizens can see what we found out in our search for best practice. It meets all the principles of project management. I pre-filled in our survey card that we do mow over litter. So that's not 67 counties, just 66. We completed the first action. We continued mowing over roadside litter. But all it would take would be one commissioner. In closing, I'd like to make one item of procedural point that I would like brought to light. As all can see, this item was not listed on today's official agenda. Over the past 4 years, I have independently succeeded in introducing this same item to the official county agenda. In my effort to do so again this year, on June 16th, 2020, I emailed all the previously required documentation to the county manager's office. 1 week before tonight's meeting, I was emailed the process change that now only commissioner-approved items can appear on the official agenda. Without personally engaging a commissioner, this item now falls under the public comments classification, losing public visibility, eliminating awareness, and limiting participation. I have 15 seconds if you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Bate? I don't know if your mic's working, sir. Maybe tap on it.
It's on?
Oh, there you go.
All right.
Thank you.
One point of clarification.
Yes,
that,
sir.
Mr. Panic was also told that at the end of public comment, if the board chose, by vote under the under the board's change policy, that the board could vote to put it on a future agenda. And he was told that in an email that I submitted to him.
Just out of curiosity, he mentioned that he didn't hear back until a week before the meeting. Do you recall when the request was made? Was it made 2 months ago, or was it made 2 weeks ago?
No, but it wouldn't. The agenda item wouldn't come up. So staff, when it was initially submitted, a short time before that, the one staff person who processed it put it on there until it actually appeared in draft that we started looking at the agenda items. We wouldn't have seen it.
Thank you, sir.
Staff didn't pick it up when it was initially submitted. And an email was sent to him explaining that and apologizing for that oversight.
Commissioner Pritchett?
I just want to mention we changed that a long time ago, so that's not a recent thing that happened.
Yeah, I think I even referenced that a couple items ago. I think it was 6 months or a year at this point.
Right, yes.
I appreciate it. All right, Ms. Sullivan. Welcome.
Good evening. Get my glasses on. I'm here tonight to request the county commissioners to have the county attorney review legal agreements for the Hightower Beach Preserve, which is formerly known as the Oceanside Wildlife and Habitat Preserve. that the county was co-applicant on. I have some documents here to give you. I want to read one bit here. The annual survey since 1989, University of Central Florida biologists has documented that this project is a sea turtle nesting for the federal and state endangered Atlantic green sea turtle with the highest density north of Archie Carr National Wildlife Refuge and state and federal threatened Atlantic loggerhead. It's a very important beach. In 1998, the state, county, and city of Satellite Beach entered into an agreement with the FCT under the Florida Forever Fund to create a preserve to protect these federally protected species. It was created as a dark and undisturbed beach. This is, it was created to not have lights and density on the beach. The preserve agreement protects high tower with height limitations and land uses on adjacent properties. The agreement was implemented with management plan and corresponding amendments to the comp plan in 88 and 89, including banning density increases, predominantly single-family housing, specified height of 25 feet, 2 stories on the west side of A1A. The management agreement stresses limiting human activity. The issue is 85-foot hotel of an intensity rating of 1.3. The comp plan for city allows 1. And 3 85-foot condos that will impact the preserve with lights, intensity use, and significant storm water into the outfall on the preserve. And the county has an outfall study that looked at removing that outfall. Additionally, the adjacent lands were the formerly Patrick Air Force Base South Base housing, which has covenants requiring an FWC US FWS consult regarding endangered species. Both the Phase 1 and sale covenants identify lighting can harm sea turtle nesting specifically. The big picture is the seagrasses in the lagoon have decreased for 50 to 70%. That's our food. PV disease is 60% higher in the lagoon, and this preserve has the highest density of the inshore reef between Patrick Air Force Base and High Tower, which is why it has such high nesting. And so we're asking you if you honor my request. Oh, it's also where the green juveniles grow up. I'm asking you to honor my request and have and request this county commissioners to approve the attorney for the county to review these documents.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Now, this is one that kind of troubles me. I know you're coming at this from the right place. I know that you're concerned, rightfully so and understandably so, about the issue. I don't know that I'm comfortable asking the county attorney to be the one to review the docs. I know she's got a number of attorneys in her office. I would feel more comfortable having someone else review it, maybe even Natural Resources, as Commissioner Pritchett just mentioned, up to maybe an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, something reasonable, whatever the commission thinks, just so that, you know, my concern is whatever we do, even if I don't want to set a precedent, we may be setting a precedent by doing this. And I like doing that on this issue. I'm not setting a precedent, but investigating this issue because I think it's an important one. But there may be issues that I don't want to expend county resources on in the future that really don't benefit the county as a whole. And I'm struggling with really exactly how much help we should extend from the county's side, so that when we have something come up in the future that may not be as worthy a cause, we're not in a position where we now have to explain why we did it for one and not the other. But that said, I think this is important enough that we do need to do something, so.
Can I just comment one sentence?
Real brief, yeah, sure.
One sentence. The county was co-applicant on the preserve agreement. That is the reason
Okay.
I'm requesting the county.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, to the degree that may also pose an issue with a conflict with the county, looking at the county from a legal perspective, maybe the best bet is to have Natural Resources take a look at that and whatever they would produce to run it through the county attorney, just to see if they have the opinion that anything's erroneous that's put in that. What do you think, Ms. Bentley? I'm trying to work with Ms. Sullivan. I'm just
last year when the development was being reviewed by the city of Satellite Beach, and the question of these grants and agreements came up, and we contacted the state. Well, actually, Parks and Rec contacted the state, and Bill Bibby from the Department of
Ms. Bentley, I don't know that your mic is on, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
It is.
okay, as
All
long
right,
as
I'm
long
not
as it's
close
getting on the
enough.
record.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, the short story is that the agreement that she's talking about where the county is a co-applicant is Pelican Beach Park, not Hightower Beach, and that's from the state of Florida reviewing these grants. We can take another look at it again if you want, but that's the information we received last year.
Can I comment?
In just a couple sentences that I really got to
One
cut the back
sentence.
and forth.
Hightower was owned by the county, and the county co-signed the agreement for the 1998 property. The one you're talking about is 1999. There are two separate
Yes.
FCT grants.
Mr. Bate, if you're comfortable, I don't need to have a motion unless you'd like a motion. If we can have Natural Resources take a look at it, maybe spend, let's say, up to an hour on it, and then whatever their findings are to pass them to legal, not to necessarily critique, but just to point out if there are any obvious errors in what's been done.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what kind of time frame the board is thinking of. Are you looking for a report back to the board?
I guess if Natural Resources determines that it's something that should come back to the board, I'm happy to hear it. But if it's something where essentially the status quo is what Natural Resources is supporting because the evidence suggests that that's the way to go, then I don't know that it needs to come back. It really depends on what they find. So I don't know, Commissioner Pritchett, for instance, if an hour is reasonable or. Yeah, and whoever already has handled it from Natural Resources perspective, certainly they can have a hand in it. I wouldn't try to keep someone out that's.
I mean, if that's the board's direction, we'll be happy to have them spend an hour on it and then write some kind of a brief report back to the board on their finding or their review.
Commissioner Pritchett, can I twist your arm a little bit into making a motion to accomplish that?
Sure.
I appreciate that. I'll go ahead and second the motion. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously.
With COVID-19, I have some handouts. Should I just give them to somebody else to hand to you?
If you want to leave them to with Mr. Bate, we'll make sure that the clerk has a copy, and then they'll be distributed to everyone as well. All right, next up, we'll have Peter Carnesale from Vieira, of course. Good seeing you, sir. I like the face mask today. It's a trendy one. Got that plaid going. Scott Ellis would like that, I know. Oh, it's not blue. You're right. You're right.
All right, it's the wrong color. Doesn't match.
Welcome, sir.
Okay. My name is Pete Conisal, 1910 Independence Avenue. I live in Vieira, actually within the IRCC bounds. And as usual, the IRCC needs a right-hand turn lane off of eastbound Vieira Boulevard onto Independence Avenue into their back gate entrance. It is only a matter of time, not if a rear-end collision occurs. Pedestrians, bicyclists, and golf carts traveling the sidewalk are not visible from the road until you are on top of a right-hand turn, and they do not stop for cars leaving the residence with the fear of hurting someone if they slow down. As an example, my wife, as a matter of fact, came to a complete stop right on Vieira Boulevard because there were 3 bicycles in the path preventing her from making a right-hand turn. Okay? And that's what it really fears me is that somebody coming along behind them, all they need to do is miss their key by a couple of seconds or not be paying a bright attention, and you're going to have a rear-end collision. And this happens over and over again. The short entryway before the gate is another reason that the cars making the turn have to slow down below 10 miles an hour and sometimes stop on Vieira Boulevard before making that turn into the IRCC. Another basic item that I've been discussing is for IRCC, Heron's Landing and Faith Vieira Lutheran Church could use a traffic light on the corner where Heron's Landing and IRCC exit onto Vieira Boulevard. There is a parallel road, Thrasher Drive, from Faith Vieira Lutheran Church in Heron's Landing, leading to the Heron's Landing exit. That would make it usable for the church as well as Heron's Landing itself. And that's why I include all 3 in my request. Basically, there is probably not enough traffic per se to pass the normal traffic guidelines. However, because of the heavy traffic coming in and out of those 3 entities, especially the church on a Sunday, and especially the others basically on hours. And the on hours coming from IRCC are not the normal on hours since it's a retired community. So therefore, it's not rush hour on hours as much as the on hours being weekend hours. Surveys are never done on a weekend. Okay, surveys are always done looking at the rush hour. All right, and I understand why, but it doesn't apply in this particular case. Thank you for hearing me.
Let me ask you, Mr. Carnesale, and I hesitate to step on any commissioner's toes for an issue that's solely within their district. I really try not to do that, but I respect the fact you've come here again and again and again and again, and I'm just wondering if there isn't some potential solution that hasn't been explored yet. And I'm thinking, for instance, we have folks, I'm sure I'm not the only one, that request all the time to have speed bumps or speed humps more accurately put in on their streets. Some streets are marginal, some streets certainly meet the criteria, and some certainly don't. For some of them that have been marginal or that really are just a touch under the criteria, but they have some compelling case, for instance, let's say they have a bunch of kids on the street, more so than would be typical. I know in the past, and staff didn't necessarily love this, but it's something that I've done, I've said instead of saying yes or no, it's yes with an asterisk or, depending on how you want to look at it, a maybe. And the maybe is the county isn't obligated to do it. Typically, the county eats all of the cost or they just don't do it at all. But one of the things that I propose to folks on speed humps, and I'm not saying that this would necessarily work with a traffic signal, but maybe it would. Maybe having one or more of the local communities, if it's the church and if it's IRCC, get together and offer to subsidize to some extent the cost, because if it's something that isn't as expensive for the county, and I'm not saying they will or they won't, whatever Commissioner Smith decides to do on this is what I'll support since it's in his district, but it may give you some better chance at success if even a percentage of it can be offset, not necessarily half, but something. So I don't know if that's been explored. If it's not, maybe take a look at it and see if that's
The sharing of
possible.
costs basically has not been explored. However, we go back to a meeting that I did have with Commissioner Smith, and I'm sure he remembers that, okay? Because it caused all kinds of acclamations in terms of who I represent, okay, at the beginning.
I would just say, Mr., I apologize for cutting you off. I have to be equitable with everyone with the time.
Okay.
But you may want to take a look at that. I'm sorry to put more on your plate, but sometimes doing something a little differently may help you achieve the goal or at least get a portion of what you're looking for.
But if we were to go back in time, we would find that I actually asked for this to be incorporated into the widening of Vieira Boulevard. And at that point, it would have been paid for entirely by the federal government and
I feel for
whatever.
you, but unfortunately where we're at.
So I'm just saying that the fact that that didn't happen is why we're at the position that we are in now.
And I hear you. All I can say is, we take things as they come to us, and if there's a way to make it work, certainly I'm empathetic for the concern that you have. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will give Mr. Carnesale high marks for persistence. As he has alluded, I am not turning a deaf ear. I don't know if my fellow commissioners, think that I just sit up here and don't do anything for my constituents. I think obviously that isn't true. I have met with him. I've also met with the HOA there, and they've made it very clear to me that Mr. Carnesale does not speak for them. He is not on the board. This is a battle he has chosen to fight himself. I have talked with our staff, including Mr. Denninghoff. I've talked with the Vieira Company, who spent the money on the road, not the federal government, and it doesn't qualify. It's something he wants, and apparently nobody else does. It's just doesn't qualify. So I wish I could help him. I empathize with his desires and his concerns, but as he says, it hasn't happened. There hasn't been an accident there. People are responsible, and until there is a traffic study that includes what's necessary to include a turn lane, it's not going to happen.
I appreciate it, sir. And thank you for coming out. You know, again, there may be something else that just hasn't occurred to anyone up to this point that would make it more likely. So I would just say, you know,
Okay,
maybe.
and I did not mean to imply even that you had not taken the time
No,
or sat with me.
I
or-
understand. I just have a fellow commissioner that wanted to jump in and solve the problem. that
Okay.
I just wanted to make,
I'm
I
just
just
saying
wanted to
that
clear.
you did sit down with me, you did go over it, you did speak to the manager of the
Mr. Carnicel?
of the IRCC.
Sir?
We do not have an HOA,
Sir?
but we do have a board of directors.
I'm sorry, I've got to kind of keep things rolling a little bit. Do you have something, Commissioner Tabaya?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, Mr. Connersell, thank you so much. But what sympathetic ears you may get up here, you lost, I imagine, a couple meetings ago when you threatened to sue all of us. Just to be very clear, we have you said that someone's going to get in an accident and I'm going to sue.
No, I did not say that I would sue.
It's
I
on the
said-
record, sir.
what I said was
Sir,
that there probably would be a suit from whoever had the accident.
Sir,
I did not say
sir,
that I would
you
sue.
said- you
I would
said
have no
you would.
basis for a suit.
Sir, you said Commissioner Smith and I may disagree on a lot, and I'll tell you what, there's one thing about Commissioner Smith, and I found when he was running for office, he is one of the most accessible commissioners out there. I have never heard one complaint about anyone having trouble getting in touch with him and speaking either directly or on the phone in an immediate fashion. And in fact, we've modeled our office to on the constituent services that he's had. So I will follow him on this one completely, utterly, and totally. Again, you're more than welcome to show up here, but you know, you're going to have to get a number of us, I imagine, to follow you down this path. And you know, there's some good television on Tuesday night, and if you're going to keep on coming down this way, I will be following Commissioner Smith into this one. So you know, count your votes. I'm certainly not going to be changing on this one.
I'll tack on to that as well, Mr. Carnicel. You know, regardless of me trying to help come up with some solution that may or may not work, I can tell you this is one of those issues that falls squarely in one particular district. At the end of the day, if he says he wants to do it, I'll support it. If he says he doesn't want to do it, I'm going to support it. And in terms of supporting his decision, not in terms of supporting or not supporting a project. So, you know, my thought is there may be something that hasn't been explored yet, but you may want to think a little bit about changing some aspect of what it is that you're asking for. Even if it's not perfect, maybe you can get a little closer than where you are. I don't know if some other option may be available, but it's something to think about, sir.
Okay, I'll talk to the HOA in the Herons Island, and I will also talk to the church, as you suggested.
Appreciate
I
it,
might
sir.
be able to get some input from them as well.
Thank you, sir.
All
And I
right.
appreciate you coming out, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we'll have Anthony Blunt from COCO. I'm sorry that last one rolled a little bit longer. Welcome, sir.
Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you, Commissioner, members, for allowing me to speak on this evening. My name is Anthony Blunt. I live at 4600 Olympic Drive in Cocoa, Florida. I am the current Vice President for Rockledge Youth Football. I am the Minister of the Church of Christ at Lake Nona. I work in banking for the last 12 years. I've been with Rockledge Youth Football for the past 6 years as a coach. I've served on the board for the past 4 years, 2 years as the Vice President. I am a man of faith, and anyone familiar with Paul may be familiar with his statement that we ought to always have our prayers accompanied with thanksgiving. And so I am coming asking on this evening, but I also want to express my thanks and my appreciation to the county, specifically Brevard County Parks and Recs. Recently, we were soliciting sponsorships for helping us with getting and replacing our goalposts, as one was destroyed from a hurricane last year. We cannot play without having a goalpost, and so our league made some accommodations for us because it was due to a hurricane, but we had to get those replaced in order to continue to host games at our home field. The county saw us making those requests for those donations, and without us even reaching out, volunteered to replace those goalposts for us. And we're very thankful and very appreciative for the county stepping up and helping us with replacing those goalposts. And so I want to come today and express our thanksgiving for myself on behalf of Rockledge Youth Football, our president, Shatina Brown, and all of our volunteers and youth. Over 250 kids we serve there annually. I'm also coming and asking, as Mr. Ralph Livingston has requested earlier, that you reconsider the guidelines that we have for our volunteers. It's ironic. I did not expect Mr. Livingston to be here today, so when I came in and saw him sitting up here, I was surprised, even more surprised to hear that he was speaking. I've known Mr. Livingston from my professional career since 2014 as a branch manager, where I met him as a just interacting in my professional career. I know him to be a very great guy. I know him to be a good guy in the community. And I know guys that fall in this same category that are not able to help our youth. I was arrested as a freshman in college for possession of marijuana. I've worked as a juvenile counsel in the DJJ facilities. I remember going to apply for that position, and I initially decided that I was not going to apply because I felt like they would not hire me. I had a mentor at that time tell me, don't tell yourself no. You let them tell you no, and you express why you feel like you're deserving of the position. In that request to accept that position, where I took a pay cut to help to work with youth because I felt like I had something to offer them to keep them from making the same bad decisions that I made. I don't believe that they were mistakes. There were some strategic things that I did to make the decisions that I made, and so I don't make excuses, and I don't teach my kids to do that either. And I don't believe that our coaches and our volunteers like Mr. Livingston do that either. And I think they have some very valuable things to give to our kids, and when we put them in a box and say that if they've been had a misdemeanor crime for the last 5 years or a felony for 10 years, they cannot volunteer, and we take away some great coaches from our kids. And so I would ask that we really consider him as a person and those other volunteers and allow them to come out and help our kids. They are out of the streets when they're there with our kids, and they give them things that those kids can learn from them. So I would ask you to reconsider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I apologize for going over.
No, thank you, sir. And I'll throw out a couple shout outs as well with respect to Parks and Rec. I know that I had met with Councilman Alex Goins, and then I guess he's now their interim city manager out in Cocoa, Matt Fuhrer, on some issues they had over in one of the parks. And I can tell you they were great to work with, and then Parks and Rec on our end was great to work with. So, you know, it's good to have decent relationships with the cities out here. But thank you, sir, for coming. All right, we've got one last under public comment, Marcel Adkins from Valkyria. Sorry for the wait, ma'am.
No problem. Hi, I'm Marcy Adkins, and my address is 2055 Valkyria Road. I've come for a couple of reasons today. I see that you are going to have a resolution discussion about open carry. I guess that'll come up at the end, and I won't be able to be here because I have a conflict. So I wanted to address that now, but I wanted to introduce myself. I've only spoken to Commissioner Tobias before. He's my commissioner. I'm a candidate for House District 53, a Republican candidate in this upcoming election, and I look forward to serving our South Brevard area in the Florida House of Representatives. So I look forward to working with all of you, but I've already worked with Commissioner Isnardi's staff and Tobias' staff to solving problems, and I look forward to doing that with all of you in the future as well. I haven't had a chance to meet any of the others, but I look forward to. I look forward to also hearing what you have to say about the open carry law. All of the gun rights issues are major issues in my campaign, but if that becomes something controversial for you, I want you to also realize that this is National Shooting Sports Month, and I would encourage you to maybe do a resolution on that. It's something that is established by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and it's been in the national news lately, but I think that we as a society all want to encourage shooting sports. And you should know and maybe also consider that 4-H here in Brevard County does an outstanding black powder program. And in fact, I called one of my friends whose children are superstars, I think nationally, I might be exaggerating, in the 4-H program here in Brevard County. So I think that these are the kind of things I would love to see you do resolutions on. We want to encourage shooting sports. We want to encourage training across the board, especially if you're going to be encouraging open carry. So I look forward to working with you, and I hope that, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience, ma'am. All right, that's it for item G, public comment. We'll move on to H, as in hotel public hearings. We have one item, H1, ordinance repealing prohibition on alcohol in county parks and recreational facilities except in District 2. May I have a motion to approve that? Oh, Commissioner Pritchett, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Lober, I wanted to piggyback back on what you did and also exempt District 1. The reason for that, I think the purpose of this was for parking lots next to beaches. I don't have any beaches. So what we have up in our area as far as parks, they can already do it with permitting. So I like what we have going for District 1. So I also would like to exempt my district.
So your motion then, Commissioner Pritchett, is to approve this, accepting D2 and D1 then?
Yes.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and second that motion. Any discussion on it?
Mr. Chair?
Please, sir.
Sorry. Ms. Bentley, does that cause any problems with noticing if we restrict it even more?
No, the ad is broad enough to handle this amendment.
Okay.
I've got faith in Commissioner Pritchett. She's got it under wrap.
I just don't want to get called back,
Sure.
you know?
No, I'm just kidding you. All right. Okay, so we're in good shape with that. We have a motion from Commissioner Pritchett. I'll go ahead and second it if I haven't already. All in favor of the motion as stated to exempt D2 and D1 and have this apply to all the other districts, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. All right, I1, we've got some cards here. I believe we have, let's see, 3. So I1 on KBB, we'll go ahead and address the cards if that's all right with everyone first. Okay, I don't see anyone yelling at me, so we'll assume that's good. We'll have in this order Brian Bobbitt from Titusville, Elizabeth Baker from Merritt Island, and Terry LaPlante from Melbourne. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brian Bobbitt. I'm Executive Director of Keep Brevard Beautiful. I wanted to thank everyone to allow us to have the opportunity to be here tonight and hopefully conclude our RFP process. We found out this morning that another group was coming in today to talk about mowing over litter. We did not know that they were going to do that, but we were actually being proactive. We've been in discussions with county. We've also been in discussions with DBI, which is one of the state contractors, to do some of the other areas, and we're actually working, hopefully with the help of this contract once it gets approved, to be able to coordinate some of our volunteer teams out there and get ahead of some of the mowers if we can. But I just wanted to take the opportunity and thank everyone for us to be able to be here tonight. With school about to start in a few days and with our lease about to expire in September, we're looking forward to continuing what we do in the community, and we welcome all the other people that plan to comment to work with us to help eliminate some of this lawnmower issues. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Isnardi.
I just want to say
Brian?
I appreciate your group, and I've seen it more than ever because I've been spending a little bit more time on the beaches and in that area, and you guys do a fantastic job. And you can see how hard your people work, and I'm just very impressed with the amount of work that you guys put in. And I know it's just one thing of the many things that you do, but I was pretty impressed.
Oh, thank
and they're
you.
friendly. I mean, it's great. It's great to see.
Yeah, we have an outstanding staff. We have outstanding volunteers, and we love to be part of this community. So, thank you very much for the kind words.
Great, thank you, sir. All right, let's have Ms. Baker come up next. Welcome.
Hi there, how are you?
Well, thanks. How are you doing?
Good. I'm Elizabeth Baker. I live at 1450 Taurus Court on Merritt Island. Anything that Keep Brevard Beautiful is doing is a wonderful effort. And so I completely support that. I think I might have gotten a little messed up here and should have been more on the public comments because my interest actually started because of the mowing over garbage in Brevard County. You don't see it when you're driving down the road. You have to be walking. You have to be on top of it. The county mowers, the FDOT mowers, they run over things all the time. All the time. And when we live in a county that has 3 rivers and an ocean, unlimited wetlands, streams, creeks, everywhere, we're speeding up the process by which plastics and other materials become microplastics and get into our waterways and leach everything up. We're spending all of this money. Our citizens voted to tax themselves to clean up the lagoon. And fact of the matter is, if we keep dredging, that's great. But until we stop putting stuff in the water, it's not going to get clean. That's just science.
Amen.
So I really, really, really hope that we can take a deeper look at not only that practice, but actually at the contracts themselves on why it says in mowing contracts, no litter shall be run over at all. It is all supposed to be picked up before you run over it, yet the mowers still do. So what's happening is taxpayers are paying for litter and mowing. We're not getting the litter picked up in the manner that it really should be. It gets mowed over, and then we're paying Keep Brevard Beautiful to go out and do it again. So really the taxpayers are paying twice for the same service. And it's kind of incredible that in many, many years of these mowing contracts, they're still written pretty much exactly the same way they were 50 years ago. I think it's time that we really take a step back, and because the litter issue it's so many layers to it. I became so involved in it that I actually ended up starting a small business where I go and pick up litter on commercial properties, mostly in Section 8 communities. It has been a real eye-opener. It's not the homeless that are doing it. It's not the poor people that are doing it. It's everyone. We are all to blame. We all have to work together. And it's, I'm not blaming the mowers for every bit of it, but yeah, that's part of it, and I mean, there's just so many layers. I actually was kind of spearheaded the initial meeting between Tony Sassow, the former director, and FDOT to get that put together so that they could have those contracts for 520 and 528. And it was a good move. And I think we need to really, really look at those contracts and see how we can go about changing them. So
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your patience as well.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
All right, lastly on this item, Terry LaPlante from Melbourne. Welcome, ma'am.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you, Terry LaPlante from Melbourne, Florida. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you on the litter issue. Litter is thrown out along our roads, often being mowed over, blowing into our storm drains, clogging up our baffle boxes, and ending up in the Indian River Lagoon. This mowed over litter creates microplastics, which is frequently consumed by wildlife, sea life, and birds, often leading to their death and thus negatively impacting the food chain supporting us. Our state legislature has preempted our ability to ban single-use plastics and styrofoam, allowing industry to pass on the cost of cleaning up these waste products to us. We also pay a tax to protect and restore the lagoon. I urge you to take action and work with Keep Brevard Beautiful to require litter to be picked up before it is mowed and clogs our storm drains. A review of county contract reveals that litter pickup is included in the contracts for our county libraries, our county parks, and other county buildings. It seems that our county lacks a clear policy about removing litter before mowing it over when it comes to roads maintained in-house. Our neighboring communities like Indian River County, Palm Beach County, Broward County, Volusia County, Flagler clearly state on their website that picking up litter is part of maintaining their roads. Martin County has added it to their budget, to their future budget. This is not the case for Brevard. Personally, I support an ordinance against littering. I'd like to see no littering signs everywhere with warnings about fines. I see no signs reminding people not to litter in Brevard. We have speed limit signs reminding people about our traffic laws. Some people choose to speed anyway. Some of them are caught. Some of them pay a fine. While I think an ordinance against littering and no littering signs would reduce the escalating amount of litter, we will, for the foreseeable future, need to support litter pickup programs to reduce the amount of litter entering into our waterways and stormwater systems. I support Keep Brevard Beautiful and the many programs they have to address the litter issue. I hope you will renew their contract. I urge the county to work with Keep Brevard Beautiful to work together to pick up the litter before it's mowed, to reduce the amount of litter that's going into our stormwater systems and waterways. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That's it for public comment on this item. Any discussion or if we have a motion? Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would like to just make mention to my fellow commissioners that as your representative on the Indian River Lagoon Council, it has been increasingly expressed to me about the concern for the litter that winds up in the baffle boxes, the storm drains, and if it's mowed, it gets smaller pieces, and then it gets past the storm drain and it gets into the Indian River, which we know that we're spending a half-cent sales tax, which is in the hundreds of millions, I guess, by the time we're done. So it would be much easier to help keep the Indian River clean if we had the litter picked up. So I would like to propose extending an offer to Keep Brevard Beautiful and asking them to include picking up litter on the roads as well as, because I think they do it in different parks and things like that. We do it, the county do it, I think, on certain roadways like Wickham Road.
Do you want to come up, sir? Please. Please, if you would. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner, to answer your question, we do work in the parks and private neighborhoods and everything, but those are all volunteer-based programs like Adopt a Road, Adopt a Shore, Park, Trail, Island. You have it, we adopt it out. As far as like the roadside litters, we do have a separate contract with the TDC to handle the causeways, which were, I think they were awarded last year around this time, about a year ago. And that's we go out to each causeway once a week, weather permitting, and we try to clean up 528, 520, Max Brewer, 192, O'Galley, and then we also do a separate one in Palm Bay. So those are the main paid staff ones that we do. We have a truck and a mule that we take out there and we clean out everything, and we report it back to the TDC on a monthly basis. So we are out there with a paid staff. As far as like focusing on other like county roads or anything else like that, we all heard the term, it takes a village, and that's what we're here today for is this program and this contract helps fund our adoption teams and stuff like that so we can empower the community to help clean up and stuff like that. We always want to work with anybody, like I mentioned with the people with the mowing issues and anyone that contacts our office. We're open to work with anyone to make our community better. So any ideas or anything else?
Well, I do have an idea. That's where we're going with this.
Okay, yes, sir.
So you guys are nothing if not masters at getting people to volunteer.
Yes, sir.
And I think most people have pride in the places where they live, whether it be a homeowners association, whether it be a small little neighborhood or whatever. So my thought is, and I don't know how successful it would be, but as again, I said that you guys are really good at this. If you put the word out that you were interested in having groups be responsible for their own neighborhood or their own subdivision or something of that nature. We did something, as you're well aware, the jet ski club that I belong to, we adopted different boat ramps and parks, and we had monthly cleanups the first Saturday. So it's something that we did and something that we enjoyed doing, something we took pride in because we knew we were making a difference. I think the local homeowner groups, I think you could reach out to them along the same lines. That's where I'm going with this. I think that it would be a big task, obviously, but I think it's something that you can start and it could grow. And it would be done on a volunteer basis because people take self-pride in the places that they live. So I would like to propose that to you guys and see what you come up with. I talked to Mel Scott about that this morning, and he thought it was a great idea.
I agree. I think it'd be a wonderful idea, and it's also another source of volunteers for us. You know, it might be someone that's part of HOA that, you know, wasn't aware of what we do, and they joined in for an HOA cleanup, and they decide, hey, this is fun, we'll take it to the next level and adopt a street, or in your instance, a boat ramp, or I think you have an island too, don't you, that you
Yes.
maintain? So, you know, I think it's a great idea, and we're open to, like I said, we'll work with anyone with a good idea, so I appreciate that, sir.
Commissioner Pritchett, and then Isnardi?
I like those ideas. And I remember growing up, and Kurt Smith, you're going to be the only one who remembers this. The rest of them are too young for it. But there was a national
I beg
campaign
your
of
pardon.
give a hoot and don't pollute. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
But they educated us on that. We just kind of grew up, even as children, learning not to throw things out the window and stuff. So I think maybe some marketing campaigns would be good to make people aware of it. And then I don't have a problem with putting out signs of letting people know, you know, it's illegal to do it. And, you know, maybe we need to enforce it a few times to make people quit. I mean, I'm appalled sometimes at what I see get thrown out of windows. And I mean, I'm just like, ugh. So I think maybe a little bit of marketing and then maybe enforcing it a few times. Because here's the thing, really the goal is to stop the litter because it's a nasty job to go behind and pick up people's mess.
It is.
So I think if we just do that, first of all, I think it's going to even help you out with what you're doing. But I like your idea, Commissioner Smith. But I don't mind just kind of hitting it at the source either, so.
We, you know, we're an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful, and one of the big things that they push on our national conferences is behavioral change. You know, obviously, you know, we have people that want to go out there and clean up, but if we could get, like you're saying, out at the source. We do have a campaign in mind that we've been working with. We kind of put it away for a little bit, but now I think it's time to roll it back out, which is pick it up, pack it out, take it home, and recycle it. That works perfect for the causeways because, you know, people are taking everything in, but they're not taking it out with them. So signage or something along those lines, if approved by the county, I think would make a big improvement. Enforcement of litter is huge. I know a lot of times I've talked to several law enforcement officers, including our wonderful sheriff. Enforcement's hard. You know, people can go to their car, and when they're addressed by a police officer, it's like, oh, I was going to go back and get that. I just had to take this load here first. Gunks up the court system. So it's really hard to enforce. But with the county support, I mean, we love it.
You know, along with what you're mentioning, Commissioner Pritchett, somebody just mentioned to me today that if we had signs like at the storm drains and simply said something like, only rain in the drain, it would go a long way to educate people.
Absolutely.
Because I think a lot of people just don't even think about trash when they throw something out the window. It's somebody else's problem. I don't want it in my car. And it just boggles my mind when I see people do that. And same thing, the island you're talking about that we clean up on it's amazing to me that people do exactly what you're saying. They'll take a little party and they'll load up their boat or boats with cans and beer and snacks. And then when they're done, they just leave it all behind and think somebody else is going to clean up after them. If you bring it, take it. It's just amazing. And when you do your waterway cleanup, I remember one time we were out there and we found a shopping cart.
I remember that.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
the things that you find. So it's a big job, but I think you guys, like I said, you're masters at getting people to volunteer, and I think you can do it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Isnardi? Oh, please finish.
I'm done.
Commissioner Isnardi?
Yeah, if you need help getting out that information, we have pretty good outreach with our office. We also have like a social media presence and that sort of thing. Or if you're looking for volunteers, links, any, you know, images that we can help you get out there to help get your volunteer base up, just let us know. I think that might be helpful because we all have most of us have a commission page. We can
Yeah.
push out that
That'd be excellent.
information.
Good idea.
You could even do have a contest or something.
Well, what we're looking at, you know, normally we have the summer series, which is one of our largest events where 5 events, you attend all 5, then you're in the drawing to win a kayak or a 4-pack of Disney passes. Unfortunately, with COVID this year, it just wasn't safe to do it. We're trying to maybe do a one-day event. But any type of contest, I love those things that really just, it gets volunteers motivated.
Or just feature them. Just
Yeah.
have a picture of them and say, you know, our trash hero for the week, or maybe that's not a good name, but.
Trash hero. It's great.
Our cleanup hero or something.
Yeah, there we go.
Trash
You know what I
hero?
mean.
How about that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Pickup
don't know.
Hero or something like that, you know, or.
Am I the only one that has the urge to pick up the litter when they throw it out and throw it right back in their car?
No, sir, you're not.
I haven't done it, but I've really wanted to a lot
And
of times.
people know better.
And that's
People know
something
better.
that we have to stress to our staff sometimes because they're out there in the 90-something degree heat and they're picking up the nastiest things you can ever imagine. And someone will come and just throw something at their feet. And we smile, say thank you, pick it up, and put it in our bags. It's amazing what happens out there.
You know, on the waterway discussion, the interesting thing is I've got kind of a physically unique perspective on it. Most of the spots that are good to dive are also good to fish. So I'm on the bottom wherever sand may be, whether it's 30 feet or 130 feet. And the stuff people throw overboard, it's incredible. I mean, I found tools, I found beer cans, beer glasses, other beverage containers. I mean, it just seems like it's too much to ask for someone to take what they brought with them and bring it back to land to dispose of. I don't understand it. I don't get it at all. I don't know if it's upbringing or lack thereof or what the story is, but you know, none of the stuff that I'm most concerned about ever degrades or takes prohibitively long to degrade. You know, I've seen bottles and cans down there that have little pieces of coral growing on them because they've sat there for so long.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to see a piece of coral growing on a Budweiser bottle from God knows how many years back. But it's kind of sad as well on the other hand. So, you know, it's tough. But, you know, I think everyone's on the same page here with respect to it. You know, obviously we've got the nutrient issues in the lagoon, and the plastic issues are another issue over and above the nutrient loading. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think, you know, encouraging people not to dump stuff that ends up in the lagoon, whether it's because it gets mowed or because it's directly thrown into the waterway, whatever we can do on that front, I think you'll have the commission's support on it.
Thank you. If I may, what I'll do is I'll take it back to our staff. We'll kick it around a little bit, see what we come up with, and we'll come back, present to the commission, and see where we go from there with it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
All right, so let's get to the fun part on this. May I have a motion for approval? All right, so this is to approve item IS and India 1, so the approval of the KBB contracts for litter and recycling education. All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner Isnardi, a second from Commissioner Pritchett. Any discussion beyond what we've had? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, let's take a look. We continued out I-2, I-3. All right, where's Jerry? There's Jerry. Welcome, sir.
Evening, Commissioners. You have received as part of your agenda package a board report prepared by Human Resources at your request outlining a proposal for the recruiting of the next county attorney. I've compiled a lot of feedback from you and your offices with regard to what you would like to see in that recruiting. It's been incorporated in the class description. And to really pull it all together, what I really need from you all tonight are several decisions so that we can move forward with the recruiting effort. As you can see in the provided report, we've got about 8 decision points that I need some direction from you all on. The first is with regard to the salary that you would like to see advertised. We can advertise this as a specific salary, we can advertise this as a range, or we can simply advertise it as salary commensurate with experience, and you can evaluate your individual candidates at that time. If you give me that direction, I can incorporate that in your in the advertisement, and we can move forward.
Jerry, and I'm sorry to jump in on this
Yes,
one.
sir.
I've got some strong opinions on this item. For the folks that have had a chance to look at what Jerry put together in the agenda packet, there are a couple spots where it talks about 5 years minimum experience. I don't know about other attorneys, and maybe I'm slow to pick things up if this doesn't apply a little more universally, but when I had 5 years of experience practicing law, I had no business being a county attorney, especially not in a big county or a reasonably big county like Brevard. I think that we need to be looking at least double that, maybe 10 years minimum, 15 would be
Commissioner,
preferred.
the consensus I received from the board was a 10 to 15-year experience, and that's what we would advertise at.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's stellar and they have 10 years of experience, God bless them, but if they're typical for a 10-year attorney, I mean, maybe even 15 years would be better to say 15 preferred, 10 minimum, because for you to have to sort through, or whoever's sorting through on the front end, applications from folks with 5, 6, 7 years of experience, There's just
Agreed.
no reason. And when we figure that out, I think, obviously at that point, you can figure out salary a little better because you're not going to pay a 5-year attorney, which you're going to pay a 15-year attorney. At least I wouldn't think so. Commissioner Pritchett?
Yeah, this is good. Maybe we just cut to the chase on it because we studied through it. So that's good, Commissioner Lober. And just going through the data, I think you guys are we're going to have to kind of adjust the pay. But since you put the high number out, we might be in trouble with it anyways. But I also looked through it, and I think 2 months is adequate, whatever you guys are thinking, to work with Ms. Bentley for the transition, unless she will agree to stay right now. She's not looking at me, so. So I think that would be adequate. If someone couldn't pick it up in 2 months, then we got the wrong person. So I think that would be good for a piggyback. And the one other thing in here, you guys had asked about a commissioner sitting on it. I don't like that. I didn't like it when we did with the manager either. I think, I think all 5 of us need to be equally putting in input. The manager and the attorney directly work for us. So I think that has to be something we're continually putting in equal information on. So that's my overview of this. And, sir, I just thought I would share that with you. I don't know what you guys got, but I thought maybe we'd cut to the chase a little bit here, so.
A couple thoughts. First, with respect to a 2-month overlap, I think given the nature of what we've been dealing with, and I think everyone's privy to what I'm privy of, or privy to, I should say. I don't know that that's enough. I'm certainly not comfortable with that. In having spoken with Ms. Bentley, and jump in if you think I'm misstating or if I misunderstood anything from our conversation some time ago. But when I spoke with her about the transition, we discussed having a lengthy transition and having her stay on either as a county attorney emeritus or with some other job title so as to stay until she otherwise would want to stay until she's concluded drop, which I think is it November of next year?
November of 2021, yes, sir.
November of 2021.
I probably wouldn't want to even hire anybody till that 2-month backup from when she was dropping out for that point of putting it out. I think you're going to find probably a lot of good attorneys that work for cities and other governments. I think this isn't going to be too difficult when you start putting out the RFPs and start getting some input back. So
my worry, though, is, we have a good-sized legal department. I think that Eden can be used as an asset for an extended transition. I think we can, certainly we can save a few bucks on paying 2 salaries at the same time for longer than need be. But the problem is when you look at the value of a lot of the litigation that we deal with as a county, I think we're shortchanging ourselves by saving a few bucks and not ensuring that we have the most rock-solid plan that's remotely reasonable.
Well, my thought on that, though, is when you got a job in a position, you got somebody else that's been doing the same position, it's going to get uncomfortable because someone's going to be ready to take lead, the other person. It just becomes, I think, an uncomfortable situation. So we might have different thoughts of this. I think you get a good person in here. They're going to pick up some notes from her and be ready to run with it with their own abilities. I mean, Frank did the same thing when he got it. So that's my thought on it. That's probably going to be my vote on it. But however you guys vote, I know it's got to be whatever we do, but that's kind of where I'm landing.
Whoever it is going to make whatever time they're given work to the best of their abilities.
I did ask them what they thought was a good amount of time, and I got a consensus of 2 months, and that's what I was thinking also, just so you know.
Let me go to Commissioner Tabaya, and then I'll jump in again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Visco, great job here. I like how you laid it out, decision point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I say that because we've jumped from actually a decision point that was made a decision point that was made previously was like experience, right, that we'd settled upon, and so I don't know what order we want to go on, but I would advocate that we handle this systematically the way that Mr. Visco set it up. If you want to rehash, so what I'm concerned about, since it was brought up, was the minimum qualification. Some of the stuff is very difficult for, I imagine, the selection committee, and I don't want to sit, nor I think should any of us sit on the selection committee, but that's number 5 or 6. But I think we should give them clear objectives. So negotiation skills. I don't know how we would ask Jerry to determine based on an application if someone says they have good negotiating skills. So I think it's very important that we come with some measurable minimums. And like member of good standing in the bar, that's one we can verify or not verify. 10 to 15 years of experience. I would advocate 10. I would think if you can sit on the Florida Supreme Court, you probably can be a good attorney for Brevard County. So I think what we have there is good. I would like to, if we can, go in order, for the good of Jerry here as he has to look at this in the forward in the first one. And if you want to rehash the minimum qualifications, more than willing to do that. But I just wanted to point out what a good job Jerry did with these decision points here. So,
Well, let me just kind of do it this way because I think that makes sense, Commissioner Tobias. Does anyone have an issue with setting the dead minimum at 10 years?
I kind of did.
Commissioner Znari?
I kind of did, because if they had 7 and equal, experience in, say, county government or municipal government, I don't know. I think that having it carved in stone, I would say 5, preferably 10, maybe, in that way you make it a solid, great attorney that's, worked a paralegal for 10 years before they were an attorney. I'm not saying that's going to happen. All I remember is when we went out and we used a recruiter and we looked for county management. I mean, I think Frank, I asked Frank initially before if he would consider the position, long before he agreed to even consider the position. Our pool of what was left was garbage. So I don't want to, and I'm not saying that the applicants were all garbage, but for what we were asking for, we didn't have a lot of choices. And I just fear that we could end up in that slot. And if we do have choices, clearly the 10-year attorney is going to be looked at more favorably than in the 5-year, possibly, if all is equal.
Here's the other
Otherwise,
thing.
with the resume, I don't know. I think that it just closes a door that may not need to be closed.
If we advertise this early enough and not wait till 2 months before, and we find that putting out 10 years is just too onerous a requirement, and I don't know that it will be, I don't think that it will be, but I could be wrong, we would have ample time then to back it down to say, okay, 8 years, 7 years, 6 years, whatever number is appropriate at that point. But I certainly, if we open it up early enough and we find that we're not getting quality applicants, but they're just folks that can technically and barely check each box, I wouldn't have a problem extending it then. I think if we have our pick of the litter and we have ample time to have our pick of the litter, we really should pick the best of the best. And I've got to
But
tell
we'll be
you,
able to tell that from that applicant pool, like if someone's got, say, 6 years' experience versus 13. I mean, I don't know. That's just, I think we're closing a door that doesn't need to be closed early on, rather than going back and saying, oh, well, we'll lessen the standard. But
Commissioner Snart, I think we have some latitude there. If we, the way we would present something like this, and it's in your memo, it's 10, 15 years of experience in the practice of local government law or equivalent government experience. And
Okay.
traditionally what we can do is we can stack those to get to
Okay.
10 or 15.
Okay, sounds good.
that's fair too. Yes, ma'am.
I
Mr.
agree
Pritchett.
with that. And, if you get someone 6-year and 10-year, you'd pick the 10-year. But I agree. It doesn't hurt to leave it open right now, because then you're going to get all the applicants and you don't just disqualify. But, we're going to be looking for the most experience. So that's a good point. You changed my mind there.
Commissioner Tobias?
Yeah, and Commissioner Znardi brings it up. I looked at the qualifications for a county judge in the state of Florida, and it's 5 years. So I know I'm.
Don't start me there.
Yeah, I will tell you, Chairman Lober, I'm sure respects our county judges and their experience there at a minimum of
Yes.
5 years.
Yes.
So I would have no problem. 10's the Supreme Court and I think circuit, but county, I would have no problem lowering it to 5 if that would make you more comfortable.
It would make me more comfortable.
And I'm sure Commissioner Lover would support the jurisprudence or whatever you call the
I respect all judges that follow the law.
thing.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, sir. Some good points have been made. Suppose you get someone that's a superstar with 7 years. Are we going to disqualify that person? Suppose you have you own a Major League Baseball team and you want a really, really good manager. There's been an awful lot of really good managers that's never had any experience except in the minor leagues. So how about if we just used the broad sentence and said something like comprehensive legal experience and necessity? That leaves it open. And if you've got somebody that's got confidence in themselves with 5 or 6 years experience, they won't be scared away. And you're going to be the final judge as to whether they bring the qualities we're looking for. So how about that? How about if we used a broad statement like that? Comprehensive
Stardy?
legal experience and necessity.
Yeah, I would say at minimum, probably 5 years at least. In that way, it won't scare away the 6 or 7 year, and we at least get a chance to look at them. But if we use the 5, because even if it's 10 to 15 equivalent, which I know your intentions are pure, I may look at that as a 7-year attorney, and I may be a rock star, but I'm not going to apply because I'm going to be like, I'm not going to have a chance because I don't have 10 years. I don't know. I just think that we need to keep that door open.
If you look at some of the folks that apply for various legal positions, you might be very surprised with how limited their experience and qualifications happen to be. And I'm just...
Well, then we'll get that right off the bat, and we'll eliminate them ourselves if we're the board that's going to decide and weed out the...
I'm just worried that we may be inundated if we say 5 years or 0 years or 4 years or any number of years that's really lower than what we intend to hire. But, you know, if that's what the board wants to do, that's what the board will do.
Well, Jerry's got big shoulders. I have confidence that he'll weed through them.
Have fun.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Abate, you have something to say?
That's a decision point later down the road, sir.
Yeah, this is only for the purpose of, when we set a minimum standard, what we're really saying is we are going to eliminate the candidates who don't have that. So if the board goes to 5 year, and I think I heard Commissioner Lober say we could do 5 years, but or maybe Jerry said it, 10 years preferred. You know, the group that's going to screen the applicants is going to have the opportunity to eliminate people. If we set a minimum of 10 years, we will not look at those applications, because if you have 9 years, then you don't meet the minimum qualifications that are advertised. So that's the only point that I would make, and we're happy to do it as the board directs.
Let's make a deal on this. How about 7 years with 10 to 15 preferred? I'll support that. I just think 5 it's horrifying to me that someone could be a county attorney in an office like this with 5
Well,
years
you've seen
experience.
some people that run for office for judge, and some that actually may or may not have been elected that, right. I mean, you're not going to keep an application.
I don't know, Mr. Visco, would you throw it out if you're not thrilled? I don't want to put any words in your mouth. I don't know.
As we get a little further into the decision process, if you give the selection committee that authority, then that's something we can evaluate, yes. That's another decision point we have to reach.
I'd like to stick with the 5. I don't know.
If you're going to start with a number, I'd say 5. Because again, if somebody applies with 5 or 7 and Jerry's team says they don't fit, they don't fit. It doesn't matter what the number is, but we don't want to exclude anybody that could be a rock star. That's
Right.
my personal feeling.
That has 8 years' experience,
Right.
you know.
And if you have somebody with 10 or 12 years' experience that's been a county attorney before, that might be your person. Or maybe even 8 years' experience that's been a county attorney before.
In Franklin County and the Panhandle. I'm just teasing.
I just don't want somebody, and that was our fear with the county. I didn't mean to jump in, but our fear with the county is that we're going to get people that just want to retire here. They're going to say, oh, they want somebody who's got 20 or more years' experience, and they just want somebody who's going to retire to Florida, and
Well, that's where
I don't want
Jerry
those
and his team
applicants.
come in. They're going to
Right.
make those determinations. They're going to sort all through that.
Well, I mean, it sounds like we got a consensus on
Okay.
it. So 5 years.
I've got
it sounds
5
like.
years, and we're moving on from there. The salary considerations is decision point 1. Again, salary is negotiable commensurate with experience, gives you the most latitude, or we could start setting out some numbers. It just depends on, again, your preference.
Here's what I'm thinking. I may get shot down on every single one of these, but I'll still give it a shot. How about salary commensurate with experience, but when you open up the apps, you indicate minimum acceptable salary on the apps? So that we have an
The
idea as well.
applicant does, you mean?
Yeah. have
Yeah,
the applicant
that's a great
Asking the
idea.
applicant for
indicate that.
minimum acceptable.
That's a great idea. I like that.
Hey, maybe we get a BOGO and we get like a duo that apply. Yeah, we can add up the legal experience, 5 and 5.
Okay.
It's terrible.
We touched on applicant screening. Your selection committee can do, I've given you 2 options. The selection committee can deliver to the board 100% of the applicants that we receive, and you all can make the decision who you want to continue the conversation with, or you can allow your selection committee to screen the applicants and deliver to you a short list. Which would you prefer?
Screen it.
Screen and go with
Yeah.
short list.
Anyone have a different idea on that?
How short is the short list?
That's another decision point.
Okay.
No more than a
It's up
dozen?
to you guys.
10's fine. 10, 15, what do you want?
10 to 12, 10 to 15?
Yeah, 10 to 15. That sounds good, right, guys?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'd leave it up to those guys.
10 to 15 unless you feel compelled to do otherwise?
We'll see what the pool looks like.
Okay.
And if,
You might
Could be
only
less,
have-
could be
you might
more.
only have 6 or 7.
right, we may only have 6 or 7.
What's your recommendation?
It's a lot of work for you all to wade through, and again, how we're going to
Okay.
have you wade through individual interviews or group interviews like this. So the more the merrier is not the way to go. We really, restrict the number
Okay.
so that you guys have some ability to function there.
Jerry, can we see your top 15 and then you can recommend an amount out of that?
We can absolutely
That
do-
would be good.
What's that?
That we see their top 15 and then they recommend us 5 or 6 or something?
And then if we want to see additional
We can give you
ones,
we can give you a broad.
They'll give us 15, and then they'll pick 5 or 6 out of that.
We can give you a broad list, and we can rank that list, and then you guys can decide if you want to work off our ranked list, or you want to throw somebody else in that didn't include our rank on our ranking.
It's a good idea.
That'd be good.
And we're
I like
talking about
that.
the selection committee itself. I'm going to recommend to you the county manager, the county attorney, and the HR director.
That's good.
The outstanding question was whether you would want a board member on the selection committee.
No, I can tell you the one thought that I do have with respect to that. I know that we've put Commissioner Pritchett as a CPA on different things that require or that are looking at CPAs. Obviously, what I'm looking for in an attorney isn't necessarily someone that's got the best smile, but someone that's going to get the job done. So if someone wants me on there, I'm happy to do it. I think there would be an advantage in that. Obviously, the board has its own preferences, which aren't necessarily the same preferences as staff. I know staff, as a general rule with many things, is rather conservative. And they take a conservative route with things, which isn't necessarily wrong, but it's just the way that staff is wired, perhaps out of necessity or out of the fact that the environment promotes that. But, again, I think that my ability to evaluate an attorney is probably superior to someone else's ability that isn't an attorney, just as Commissioner Pritchett's ability to evaluate a CPA is probably far superior to my ability to evaluate a CPA.
I think you would too. So I think when we come back and we're now giving an analysis of this, you'll have a lot of weight with me when we're discussing it. But
Yeah,
when
I
we
agree
went
with that.
searching for Frank, we brought this up and I was kind of opinionated. I wanted all of us 5 having an equal vote when we talked about it, even did the analysis. So that's the only thing as far as bringing the candidates for it. But in all fairness, when we do that, you're going to have a lot more weight when we're having the discussion that time. Same Commissioner Isnardi has a lot more weight with me when we're talking about the COVID. So that will work with me, but I still am not comfortable with one of us being on that board, unless you pick me. Just kidding.
All right, Commissioner Tobias, Commissioner Isnardi, any thoughts?
Mr. Visco, are you an attorney?
Yes, sir.
Frank is.
Frank, are you an attorney?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. We have some attorneys. I think we're probably gonna, in all honesty, lean on you.
Okay.
The same way that we've leaned on Rita, but might as well flex your muscles when we have the TV and the microphones in front of us. And I know I'll be leaning heavily on your expertise when we pick another county attorney. Though this could be solved if Eden just agreed to stay.
Yeah, I don't know that drop works that way.
Darn it. She just has to sit out for a couple months and come back.
All right, we've got a consensus. All right, I'm not going to put you on the spot then, Commissioner Isnardi.
Oh,
unless
I'm
you-
good either way, honestly.
All right, Commissioner Tobias, is that a new light, sir, or is that? Okay, no worries, I'm sorry, I just didn't clear it, I apologize. All right, so you've got it.
I
So
got
the
that.
three
All
of you
right.
guys
We just discussed maybe having the selection committee bring to the board a list as many as 10 to 15 with a ranking of our top candidates. When I was having discussions earlier, the consensus I was reading was that you wanted you would have maybe at that time preferred a short list of 2 to 3, but no more than 6 candidates to be brought down. If you're still good with the 10 to 15 in a ranked, or I'm good with that too, we can move on to the next point.
maybe 10 to 15, but if you think that there are half a dozen or so that truly are superior, then make a note of it.
Okay.
What do y'all think?
I think 10 to 15 is way too big, my personal opinion. I think it's too unwieldy. These guys have spent the time looking at the list. They can evaluate these people. They're going to be talking to them, et cetera. I think 5 or 6 would be plenty, but that's my personal
I
opinion.
think 5 too, but I wouldn't mind seeing maybe the 5 before you tossed out. I'm just curious.
Commissioner Snarty?
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I don't have a problem if you rank 5 or 6, but then I want to see what was close, only because if, say, 3 of those, there's not a good dynamic, they look better on paper and they're better with staff than they are with us. I don't want to then eliminate, or then, get us down to 2 or 3 possibilities if there's not a good vibe.
So basically, just to kind of make sure I'm on the same page, 5 or 6, but let the commissioners individually know who the next 5 or 6 would be, so that
And
if
they
you
can
hear
still put
from
it on
one or
the
more of
list.
them, add them.
We can still create a
Put
list.
them on
of-
the list, give us the resume so we can at least view it and say, I want to learn more about this person, or maybe we reach out to that person to see if they're worth putting back on the top 5 or 6.
Commissioner Mate. Commissioner
What I would
Mate.
suggest that the board would be good at it. Give us the flexibility to look, and our goal should be really, quite honestly, to give you 3 to 5 names that we think are the top names, and then we will give you between 10 and 15, depending on what the pool is, how close they are, but a minimum of 10. So you're going to get at least the top 3 and the top 10, and then we may give you a little bit more than that, 5 or 6, if we really think the top 5 or 6 are close. And we may give you 15 names if we can't really discern it. We may give you the top 3, but give you 15 because they're all pretty close. Give us that little bit of flexibility, and we'll come back with you with that. And if that would work, I think, in light of what I'm hearing, I think the board would be comfortable with that.
Commissioner Snarty?
I think top 3 is a little tight for me. I would like to see minimum 4 to 5, and then that list.
The reason I'm saying that is because when you get that list of top 10 to 15, you're going to be able to add very quickly the next couple that you want, if you want to interview that much, rather than us giving you that. But we can give it to you in the top 5 if that's what you
But
want.
this is a pretty important position, and
Well,
there's,
absolutely.
and I'd like to see the faces of 4 or 5 highly qualified individuals to make a decision, rather than narrow down to 3 and then have to say, well, this resume looks good, can I meet this person?
But that's just, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
That's fine. Sure.
Can you rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for us, and then we'll know your top 3 in there too, and then, but we'll have the whole 10?
We'll give you the top 5 and we'll rank them, and then we'll give you at least a minimum of 10.
Okay.
And I don't know if anyone, Commissioner Spio?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Visco, are you going to set up a rubric for this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll have a generic scoring, whether you rank experience or whatever, education.
We'll go through the process we go through with all of our hires. We'll
Okay.
create a hiring matrix and a scoring and the whole 9 yards, so we can have that available to you to show you the committee's evaluation.
Okay, as long as the University of Alabama College of Law gets a very low rating, I'm okay with it.
We can arrange that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And one other thought, and again, I'm sorry to kind of interject here, but just to make sure I get it out there, because I think it is, even though it's not necessarily on, well, it's not on your list, just something to maybe get a better feel for what it is that the commission's looking for, because that's, part of what I was hoping to accomplish were I to have served on the evaluation committee. And what I started alluding to as far as folks having a conservative view that are government attorneys or that work for the government, I don't know. We've had a lot of legal situations come up where, frankly, I don't know that being ultra-conservative and risk-averse has been to our benefit or would have been to our benefit. I really want to make sure that we get someone, not that's a maniac and is going to push everything to the wall, but also not the other extreme where we make all attempts to placate everyone at all times and we're willing to pay out all claims because we're so liability-averse we can't fathom the chance of something going to trial. When I look at the county and I look at our resources, obviously we're not the federal government, we're not L3 Harris, but we may not be the 800-pound gorilla, but we're at least maybe a 600-pound gorilla. And I'd like someone that can come in and understand the fact that when the situation calls for it, they need to have a spine. So I don't know where other folks are on that, but I think that, when you're looking at applicants, if you have someone, for instance, that's practiced in a field of law where you would expect to see trials, if they're settling everything and they can't say they've ever done anything but second chair to trial, to me, that name needs to be tossed. So maybe I'll put that out. I'll look in the camera for the folks that are considering applying. I will never support you, so you'll need to get at least 3 of the others. If you don't have some trial experience, if the area of law in which you practice suggests that it's something that's appropriate.
All considerations that obviously get fleshed out in the interview process, which leads me to my next decision point, is the type of interview you would all like to conduct. Would you prefer to have individual interviews with the candidates, or would you rather do it in a forum such as this? We present the candidates to you here, and you all have a crack at them. You want to do both?
I agree with Commissioner Pritchett on that. That makes a lot of sense. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I agree, especially with Sunshine. They'll have to meet with us individually. So and if they're really concerned about the job, I don't think it's too much to ask the finalists to meet with us on an individual basis.
Very good.
Fair enough.
Finalist selection process is something we can talk about after the interviews, selecting your preferred candidates and having them ranked, that we can then begin negotiations with your preferred candidates to see who we can come to terms with. Establishing a negotiation team, again, is something that we can have a conversation with at post-interview when we're ready to move forward at that stage. We really come down to the transition plan. How much overlap do we want to have with our incumbent and our successor? Because that will really dictate to me when we have to start this process.
I'll just tell you, it would scare the hell out of me not to have at least half a year, given everything that's going on. I don't know if maybe I'm getting different emails than you all are getting, but I have people threaten to sue me all the time here. When I say me, I mean the government, meaning Brevard County. We've had plenty of folks sue us. I just would be very skittish having less than that. Frankly, if we had a year, I would feel better about it. I don't think we need more than that. I think that's excessive. But I don't think we should have less than 6 months, and I really feel strongly on that. So I don't know where other folks are at, other than maybe Commissioner Pritchett. Commissioner Nardi, I'll call on you since I don't see lights.
Well, I mean, I think there's somewhere in the middle. I mean, I think 2 months is a little light. I think a year is far too long. I don't know how uncomfortable it gets with somebody coming in versus, I mean, I don't know how you have a sitting county attorney or how you have asked them to step back and have somebody come in, how anybody's comfortable with that for too long.
Well, Nick Samatalis, I'm probably butchering his Greek last name. I don't mean to.
I remember I was at the city of Palm Bay when we did that,
Oh, there you
but
go.
he was retiring and he wanted to just kind of be available, so it was sort of something he wanted, absolutely wanted. Miss Bentley's like going through the end of her drop, so I don't know. I mean,
I've seen it work, is all I'm saying.
right. I guess if she wasn't removed from her position, it may make it a more comfortable
Just
place.
ask her.
Miss Bentley, do you feel comfortable talking about it?
I guess I need to. I think a 2-month overlap would be a nice luxury for the incoming person. I hope to have the staff the existing staff, fully able to support and help and guide as needed any new person coming in. But, I want to accommodate the board and make them feel comfortable in the transition. I serve you, so I want you happy with the transition. But I was asked when I took the job if I would stay till the end of drop, and I'm committed to do that. I will honor that commitment. So whatever I can do to make the transition work, I will work with you.
Would you anticipate having a problem if you had a longer transition?
I think 6 months would be a long time. 2 months, you could bring somebody in. The first month they could watch, the second month they could do, and I could be there as a safety net for them. I don't know exactly how you would work out the terms of such a contract, but you start things and you figure it out and you work your way to it.
Commissioner Smith. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think 2 months would be fine. You've got the institutional knowledge of the rest of the legal staff. And if somebody comes in here with 6 to 10 to 12 years of experience, and they may have already been a county or a city attorney, they're going to know what they're doing. And they can pick up on things pretty quickly. And again, with the institutional knowledge that they will have working with Ms. Bentley for 2 months and the rest of the staff to lean on if a question comes up. And then again, of course, we have the two legal eagles here, Mr. Abate and Mr. Jerry. So I think anybody coming in here with two months, they'll have more than enough support that they can represent us quite well.
I respect it, but I beg to differ. Commissioner Tobias?
I'm not going to wade into that. But there is one thing I do want to touch up on, and our charter is pretty specific. We have one county attorney.
Right.
And I can't support anything that would take that title from Eden until, I guess, October 31st of 2021. I think that anyone that came in, whether it be 2 months or 6 months, and was that eager to get a title that quickly is probably someone I really don't want to be the county attorney. So I just want it very clear that again, I'm not going to get into the 60 days or 6 months or 6 years, but I certainly expect and will vote, won't vote any other way that won't keep Ms. Bentley as the county attorney until such day that she retires.
I don't know that I've seen, and maybe Ms. Bentley or Mr. Abate or Mr. Visco have seen differently. I don't know that I've seen someone being hired on as, for instance, a city attorney or a county attorney that doesn't quickly assume that title. The times that I've seen the existing city or county attorney stay on, they generally stay on as whatever they were called, emeritus, or something that's substantially identical to that, to be available as a resource. When I've seen it, it's worked. I'm not saying that it will always work in every circumstance and situation, but if I'm hearing correctly, it sounds like you don't want to have a setup where we ever have Eden as anything other than the county attorney while she's receiving a Brevard County paycheck.
No, because, upon her retirement, if we need her back the way that we do, I have no problem on using her skills after that point. But certainly when she is a full-time employee here, I certainly hope and expect that she will be the one and only as our charter ensues. And again, if we have anyone come in and we hire them and they're not happy with the title of assistant or deputy for a couple months, I'm probably not that comfortable with having them in that position.
Jerry, is that how it's done elsewhere? Because I've never seen that, where you hire someone to take the helm, but you give them a junior title when you bring them on board, or keep them on for months on end. I've just never seen that. And I think that may dissuade people that are applying for an alpha position that aren't going to be able to be in that position for some time.
The President of the United States is an example of someone that we hire somebody else, and then there's something called the lame duck period, in which they don't have the powers of the presidency. So if it's good enough for the president, it's probably okay for the county attorney's
I truly
office.
don't understand the analogy.
So that there's a president, and we hire a president, right, through an election, and he or she doesn't immediately assume that office. So in other words, there is a transition period between hiring someone and when they assume the full power of said office.
But they're never working as the number two in the office. They simply just have a period of time before they start.
They
It's not
receive
analogous.
They receive benefits, Secret Service protection, full briefings.
Okay. I mean, if that's what folks want to do, I think we're worried about cutting out quality applicants that have less than 10 years, someone with 5 years.
But they get a paycheck and learn their job, so.
I mean, if folks don't care that may not be how it's done anywhere else, and it's going to be a peculiarity.
Jerry and Frank think.
Yeah, let's hear it.
What I can tell you is that, and I can only make the analogy to the directors, we've never taken a position where we've had a director and into succession planning brought someone else and made them director and had the other person step down. We've done it the other way, where we've had them as either the assistant director, et cetera, and learn the position for a period of time and then assume the director when that director left. And we're trying to do that more and more, trying to give some period of time, whether it's a couple of months. And then, of course, the other alternative we do is, which you don't want to do here, is, have an interim until the other person can step up. And that obviously isn't something we'd want to do here. So all I can give you is the analogy of how we do it, and we've been doing it with the directors and trying to do. We do provide someone the opportunity that we think is going to be the good candidate and the next candidate in line when we bring them up. Matter of fact, we did that. We've done that with a few directors, that we put them into the assistant position, or you could have a deputy position and then let them move in. But we haven't had that experience with the county attorney, obviously.
No,
Mr. Bate, I would never accuse you of dodging the question, but are you aware of any other cities or counties that have a city or county attorney that have hired someone on board?
Titusville. When I was on the city
Titusville?
council, they had Richard Broom come in and work for a while. Dwight Severs was there. And when they were ready, Richard became the attorney. And that's what we
But
did
did
there.
he
at
work
Titusville.
under the preceding city attorney?
Yes, he was on staff full-time.
Okay,
Mr.
if it's happened somewhere, it's happened somewhere. I appreciate
Yeah.
the update, because I didn't know that that's
Yeah.
something that's ever
And then
happened.
he took over
but-
the position when they
Okay.
were ready.
All right, I'll let that one go then.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Would it be more advantageous if they were to receive the full salary those 2 months and it was just merely a title? Is that, if it's a financial?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, because I think we're going to potentially lose people that don't want to be paid a junior wage.
Yeah,
If you're okay with that, I'm all right with it. That's
Okay.
different. I'm sorry if I misunderstood.
Yeah, especially
We didn't
if-
anticipate advertising for deputy. We're advertising for the county attorney, so I would expect that we'd be paying.
Okay, yeah, I don't want us to lose a quality applicant that says, I don't want to deal with this joke of a game. Why do I need to get paid substantially less to be in a subservient position for a period of time?
Especially if we go for the 60 days. I don't think that the overlap is going to make that big of a difference. And I certainly would support them to be paid the full negotiated wage until such time they took over.
That makes more sense. Yeah, all right, that's fair.
Okay. So I'm hearing a 60-day or 2-month transition period. That begs the question then, when would you like me to begin advertising? My process to advertise, to let those advertisements soak for a while in all the mediums that we'll use. The selection committee's work, I would estimate, will take anywhere from 3 to 4 months if we get through it the first time.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to start early in early in 2021, because we need to give ourselves extra time in case we don't get the pool of applicants you want. And, you know, if we're looking at 10 or plus applicants for the board to look at, we're going to want to give a little bit, you know, extra time. So I would venture to say, if the board would be good with it, early in the spring of 2021, to make sure we have the advertisement going out already.
What do y'all think?
That's fine.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, is that January or the spring?
No, spring of 21 is not January, I would say. It's more like March, April.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Then that's all I have for everybody. If I were to recap real quickly.
Yes, sir.
We've agreed that we'd like to see 5 years of experience, but we'll have the language that we were looking for, equivalent government experience, and we'll let the selection committee evaluate that level of experience as we make those recommendations.
Let me time you out if I may, Jerry. I'm sorry. When we said, when the commission, not me, when we as the commission said 5 years, I don't know that anyone was contemplating stacking a couple of years of legal experience with 3 years of government experience. If that's the case, I'm just going to bite my lip.
We'll have a five-year minimum. I think I've got it all written down with the board.
I mean, is everyone not on board with an absolute dead minimum requiring 5 years of actually being licensed to practice law?
Okay, very good.
What I'm hearing that you
5 years of
stack-
good standing with the Florida bar.
Okay,
Right.
all right, because the impression I was starting to get was we would stack whatever legal experience they have with government experience. So if someone's been an attorney for a week, but they've had 4 years and 51 weeks of government experience,
They
now
would
they
never
get
make
qualified.
it, they would
wouldn't get
never
through the
make
selection
it
committee.
past the selection committee even.
I just don't, I mean, the thing is, I understand they wouldn't make it through the selection committee. I just don't want the selection committee bogged down by someone or many someones that have no business applying for the position.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, very good. If there are any other questions, we're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can we take 5 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and recess at 7:23. We'll reconvene at 7:33.